welcome back, everyone. We're on item number 8, the comfort variance hearing. Councilmember Napier, you recently had a conversation with one of the applicants. Do you want to fill us in on what you guys determined?
He was showing a line somewhat parallel from the existing shed to one, not the neighboring property, but the one after that.
Uh-huh.
I just went back to what I was saying, that it's not that one that I'm referencing, but the one that share that property line together with the proposed building site shared with the property to the east.
Got it. Any further questions from council or staff? Does the applicant wish to make any further comments? Okay. Any public input on this item? Seeing none. Gary, I'll just ask a quick question, or Penelope, either one of you. So council previously asked for some documentation be provided for the alleyway, and then would you just mind going over it just very quickly what we asked for, and then what you provided was the documentation from the fire department?
Mm-hmm. So the documentation in regards to the alley was provided by the applicant as well as obtained from staff at City Hall.
Great.
That included an assessor parcel map, which was provided by the applicant. That's a map that's generated by the county assessor's office and is used for taxation purposes. And us planners and realtors and others, developers use them for various reasons. But on the one that was provided, which you can see in your packet, it is showing abandoned, let's see wall. So it states abandoned, 42878, resolution number 137. So typically when you see something like that on an assessor's parcel map, it indicates that it was abandoned on that date according to that instrument from the city. So other than that, we also have the actual resolution that's referenced there that was provided. That's in attachment 3, alley abandonment documentation, resolution number 137, resolution declaring the intention of the city council to order vacation the alley located between B and C streets and Wall and Broad streets. So that is that alley.
Great.
So as far as what we could tell from the assessor parcel map as well as this resolution, that alley was in fact abandoned.
Great. And then again, we also got correspondence with the fire department and everyone. And they all were okay with the modifications. Great. Does the council wish to ask any other questions or entertain a motion?
I would move to adopt Resolution 1245, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake approving the variance application for Jason Lorraine Comfort to allow the construction of a new garage within the side yard setback.
We have a motion by Napier.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Louis Lusso, apologies.
That's why.
Louis Lusso. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Bailiff. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Napier. So one dissenting Napier. All right, so what are our next steps, Gary? Do we have documentation to sign, or do we need, there was a application of some sort?
Is that resolution 1245? You
Yeah,
have
we-
that also in your
We
packet.
have a
yeah,
resolution
the whole
printed out, single page,
Okay.
so that it can be
That's
signed.
fine.
Does it need,
So-
what's the process? It gets read, or?
So basically, once you've made your decision, then the staff needs to fill out the resolution as far as what the vote was.
Right.
So that would be on this page, ayes, nays, et cetera, any abstentions, that kind of thing. And then it's signed by the mayor of the city council, so it's signed by you, and then attested by the secretary of the city council. Sometimes that's done, say at the end of the meeting. Sometimes they have to come to City Hall to sign that. And then once it's signed, it goes into the resolution binders at City Hall. It gets sent to the applicant, and we file a notice of action, which is there at City Hall. Now, if the planning commission were doing, we have a 10-day appeal period, but because it's the council, we don't have that. But we would still file the notice of action nonetheless.
If someone did come forward to appeal, they'd be just out of luck at that point.
Yeah, if it were planning commission, they would have the ability to appeal to the city council, but because it's a city council, my understanding is their recourse would be to file a lawsuit.
Great.
If somebody felt they needed to do so.
And I do want to note that in that big signature packet that I gave you have 2 copies, just in the event that you sign your name wrong or something, because mistakes happen. So
Happens.
you do have the signature copy ready to go as well for this evening.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and typically, like if those were printed out double-sided, staff doesn't want it that way, so we brought one that was single-sided.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the hearing on the comfort variance hearing. Moving on to item number 9, conduct second reading of ordinance number 546.
This is going to be a Gary issue.
Thank you.
Let them clear.
Party out there.
Yeah.
All right, why don't we get started? So, yeah, this item's on the agenda tonight because it'd be the second reading of an ordinance that the city needs to adopt to be in substantial compliance with state housing element law for the 6th cycle housing element update. And I'm gonna keep the presentation brief. I'm assuming there'll be a number of questions, so I won't get into a lot on this. But the first reading of the ordinance was done in December 2nd meeting, and members of the council requested additional information about the status of accreditation of the Blue Lake levy and whether that status prohibits the city from approving or planning for housing in areas protected by the levy. So based on that direction, we gathered some additional information about the levy accreditation. So we reached out to various agencies, reviewed the current flood insurance rate map, reviewed the geotechnical evaluation that was prepared for the levy the last time they updated the mapping. That information, is going to summarize in your staff report, so if you have any questions about that, let me know. But ultimately, from the research that we did and conversations that we had, primarily with Hank Seaman of County Humboldt Public Works, it doesn't appear that the current status of levy accreditation prohibits the city from planning for or approving development in areas that are protected by the levy. So that's the conclusion we came to. Obviously available to answer any questions that the council may have.
Great, thank you. Does the council have any questions for Mr. Reese?
I do. So, Gary, my first question was, why was this particular lot chosen? Was there any, I wasn't part of this, being
Yeah.
a newer council.
Good question. Tried to touch on that a little bit. We met with the Department of Housing and Community Development about several sites because we wanted to make sure that they were on board with the site that the city was going to apply this to. And so we looked at a site off of South Railroad, just down the road here. I think it's a couple acres. We looked at, what other site? We asked about the site being considered for the Danko project, whether that would be appropriate. We looked at this site. Really weren't that many choices. If you look at the site inventory and the mapping, the housing element update, there's only a couple sites that are 1 acre or larger. So that's a very limiting factor for Blue Lake. So of the sites that we looked at, the one over here was basically landlocked, had limited utilities available to it, limited access. Didn't seem like a good candidate for potential development in this planning cycle going through 2027. The Danko one, they said, the purpose of this action is to kind of prepare a site for more affordable housing. You already have a project being considered there. They have a application in, et cetera. That would be like double counting to try and apply that to a site that's already identified for affordable housing, is the way they phrased it. And that essentially left one of our last remaining 1 acre sites, which was that city-owned site of 1.4 acres there, right on the edge of the Mondaway cul-de-sac. And as you can see in here, we're not recommending the full 1.4 acres be rezoned. We're looking at just 1 acre portion of that site, so the city's meeting the minimum requirements. I will say we also asked about other sites down there in Powers Creek District, like Calgon Carbon, just for discussion's sake. What if we tried to, apply it to that one? And they said, well, right now, that's not on your site inventory. So if you wanted to apply this to sites on your site inventory, you need to go back and amend your housing element update to include those additional sites in the site inventory and then bring this back forward through the process. Well, obviously, we didn't have the time to do that, so the idea of including other sites, that weren't in the site inventory was kind of off the table with the timeline that the city has. So through all of that, it came down to the site we're recommending as being the most viable site during this planning cycle for application of the multifamily combining zone.
So then my question, follow-up on that would be, if they felt like it was a double on the Danco property,
Yeah.
and then we approve this property and it comes under this planning cycle, then does that mean we will be asked to do another site like this combining zone for the 7th cycle as well?
The combining zone is a zoning tool the city may want to use in a similar manner in the future, but we don't necessarily know that you'll need to use it in the 7th cycle. The reason you're having to use it is because the planning wasn't done properly in the 5th cycle. The city chose not to get certified in the 5th cycle. This is making up for that, what happened in the 5th cycle, the lack of planning for the RENA allocation in the 5th cycle. So it's kind of a punitive measure that the state used.
And then I have a couple of questions
Sure.
About the accreditation, because I guess my concern wasn't really that the accreditation would prohibit us from doing that, but whether or not the accreditation of the levy, the certification, and just to be clear for everybody here, certification is the process you go through with the levy in order to say you've met all these guidelines to make sure that the levy is performing the way things are okay with it.
And could I just make one
Yeah.
clarification on that I learned from Hank Seaman? So certification is something that would be done by an engineer who reviews it, say the city does improvements or the city and county and they get it to where it meets, the regulations and all that. An engineer, say a private engineer, would certify. That certification would be submitted to FEMA, who would then potentially consider it for accreditation. So they're two different things.
Correct,
Yeah.
accreditation and I was just explaining what the certification, and the certification also requires the city to submit documents that say that we are maintaining the levy, so we have to give them our maintenance records. I asked Hank Seaman myself if the county had records for maintenance, and they do not. What they have is that they just go in and meet. And when I looked at the information from FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers, there's very specific guidelines on what the maintenance would require. Some concern I would have is about the trees and the things that we have on the levee, that wouldn't meet their guidelines. So I do have questions about that. Secondly, when I looked through this, I would really encourage anyone to look on page, what is it? Page 177. And there's a photo, and I'm sorry if you don't have that, but there is a photo from 1950 that shows the future levy. And it's in red, and then the blue dotted line is where the North Fork of the Mad ran in 1950. And if you look way in the right corner, that is where the Mad River flowed in 1950. And it was really far away from the levee. The little orange thing says Future Hatchery Road Bridge. That's where our bridge currently goes across. So you can see how much room there was between our levee and the river. So the river did not run up against the levee. And when Hank was talking, he said one of the biggest issues, and I went home, I didn't want to comment on it till I read my notes. He said one of the biggest issues with our levee is the way that in 1964 in the flood, it changed the direction of the river. So the river no longer went on the other side of the bridge. It now goes right up against the levee. And he said that with the river coming and hitting right into the levee and then coming down, he would say that was the biggest issue with our levee. The report, Gary, that you gave in here, and you cited an engineering report, so I did pull it
Yeah,
off.
the geotechnical evaluation.
Correct, so I
yeah.
pulled it off the
Yeah.
county website so I could read it. And you did say in here that they said it generally, they felt that the levy generally provided protection. But in here, in your report, it also said that one of the things we needed to do for the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA to get the accreditation or say that the levy could meet that guideline for the 100-year flood, that we had to include hydrologic data. And that report specifically says, this engineering report, that that's not what they were reporting on. So there seemed to be some issue there with what we were being asked to provide to FEMA. This report also states, because you said they say they generally think the levy can do what it needs to do, but on page ES3, it says additional technical analysis, additional site characterization, and/or implementation of mitigation measures may be needed before a qualified engineer would certify the levy. So they
Yeah,
aren't even saying in here that they're the qualified engineer
Right.
that would support.
Yeah, that wasn't the purpose of that geotechnical evaluation.
Okay.
There was enough money to basically do kind of the preliminary assessment, which determined, yeah, generally they believe in their professional opinion that this levee still provides flood protection in the community of Blue Lake. But you're 100% correct that there's other steps that would need to happen in order to get an engineer to certify that levee and to get FEMA to renew the accreditation. And I went over those with Hank. That was one of the reasons I met with him in person, was to kind of get a better understanding of that. And the first thing is they're going to have to hire an engineering firm to basically do that additional analysis that's identified in that geotechnical evaluation, which will ultimately lead in determining the specific improvements that are needed for the levee to meet the NFIP requirements. So that would kind of be step one, that additional investigation to really specifically identify those improvements. Second, get money to construct the improvements, so they would need to be done. Then after that, potentially hire an engineer to review all that information and hopefully certify it, and then that whole package could be submitted to FEMA to determine whether they believe it meets the requirements and they could renew the accreditation. So those are the steps ahead. Hank did indicate that obviously that would require a lot of funding to do, hundreds of thousands or more, to accomplish all of that. It would need to happen with grant funding. Neither the city or county have the means to accomplish that at this time. Another thing Hank said, and he wanted me to communicate this to city manager as well as the council, is that he's really interested in reestablishing a line of communication and close working relationship with the city regarding levee operations, maintenance, and continuing to pursue the accreditation process. Specifically, he mentioned that there is a state grant that is going to be or will be, in the near future, received by the county to prepare a levee safety plan, and that's something he really wants to work with Public Works and whoever at the city on. So, that was good to hear that they're working on those kind of things. But anyway, that was something he wanted to communicate.
And it does, just looking back through the planning, this seems the next steps were part of planning years ago. So back in 2013, that conversation was happening about the accreditation. And this is a document from FEMA. And it says, if a community or levee owner wants an area behind the levee to be shown as reducing risk from the 1% annual chance of flood, they must first complete the process for having the levee certified. It goes on down here to say, it is the responsibility of the levee owner, which is us in the county, to ensure the levee is being maintained and operated properly. And it goes on to say that you can't say that it offers the flood protection if it's not certified and it's not accredited. So there's just a, yes.
When you're done.
Okay, there just seems to be an issue for me and a concern for me that we are stating it meets that guideline. And it's up to us to be the ones who go to the, and there can be errors, Gary, on the mapping for FEMA. And I wonder what they would have to say. That was why I was interested in hearing from FEMA or the Army Corps of Engineers about how they are thinking about this. Was it an oversight that they never followed through on their letter that said, you know, we're looking for
Yeah.
you to keep moving on?
No, I don't think it was an oversight according to my conversations with Hank Seaman, as well as my experience in being involved in that map updating process years ago. I've been working with the city for a long time, so I was around back then. Hank did mention that funding was provided, I believe, by FEMA for the county to do flood scenario mapping. There was a couple different maps that were done to look at if the levee wasn't there, what would, you know, the flooding scenarios look like. So the county did complete some of that. He did provide that information, but what he indicated is that was not used in the updating of the map ultimately by FEMA. Essentially what they did, they said, all right, we're gonna just kind of treat you guys as a seclusion area, and we're just gonna adopt the same original mapping you had that showed the levee as being protected. So that's the mapping we have that is functionally the mapping that is used for determining if somebody needs to comply with the city's floodplain management regulations. So, as Hank noted in his comments, you know, he states it's important to clarify that the levee is accredited on the effective flood insurance rate maps for the Blue Lake area. He again notes the technical study that looked at the mapping scenarios and things like that. So it does say on the map itself, if you look at the flood insurance rate map, it states basically that the levee does not comply with NFIP regulations, saying that the firm panel would be revised at a later date to update the flood hazard information associated with this structure. You know, asking Hank, he's like, we have no indication they're gonna update those maps anytime soon. And that essentially the flood hazard data shown inside that boundary on the mapping should just continue to be used. In other words, the original mapping that showed the levees being protected. So when we go to implement our floodplain management regulations here in Blue Lake, we're essentially still looking at the same mapping that showed the levee as being protected. That's what the law requires at this time. And I think the bigger conversation here is it'd be great to see the city, you know, reestablish that relationship with the county and continue working towards levee accreditation.
This geotechnical evaluation does state that there are issues with the levee. So with
Yeah.
seepage, they did indicate it, that
Oh,
there
yeah.
were problems. So for me, I guess I just have concerns, because it's one thing to say they haven't updated the map, but it doesn't sound like we've been having a conversation with them. And so, yeah, I guess I'm asking these questions because as I take my vote tonight, I need to make sure how all of this fits into that.
Yeah,
position.
that's totally understandable. And I think it's page 184. This was just kind of Hank's a summary of the geotechnical study, just to point out that you're correct. There are issues with the levee. There's issues that prevent it from meeting the standards. But as he summarizes in here, the locations not meeting the standards, they're actually close to the standard. This is not an extreme condition. So I think that is important.
I would note that information, it is 10 years old now. So whether or not that continues to be a problem as we don't address it. And it was part of our strategic plan in the city of Blue Lake. So there is a strategic plan that was in place from 2013 to 2018. And then after that, it just fell off the radar. And for me, if it was part of that, and then we didn't keep on having the conversations about it, we could have very well missed an opportunity, even with the infrastructure bill at the federal level, which I looked into it. I did call someone at the national and say, did this include money for levies? And they said, absolutely. We also passed propositions in California in November, and there was $10 billion, and part of that was for levy. So you miss an opportunity to apply for funding and maybe get something going, and that would be my concern if we leave this sit and we don't move forward and establish that.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from council or staff? Thank you for all that information.
I'm sorry.
No, it
was
wasn't, no, I totally,
This is great.
I totally appreciate it. I do have concerns on the other side with Powers Creek there, you know, because we just had this not flooding right there, but, potentially in the future, there was a lot of leakage on the side. I have a lot of pictures of it. Is that anything to take in consideration when we're zoning this area for that development potentially?
Sure, I mean, if we were to have seen in recent years that that site was being flooded, then yeah, that would be a
Okay.
concern, and we would functionally treat it as though it was in a special flood hazard area, which is something the city has done. So upstream, I forget the speaker's name, Karina, was speaking earlier about that gap in kind of the levee, if you will. It's not really levee, but that allows water to go down Charlton Road and that kind of thing. That's a known issue, and that has also allowed water to come through the Boughton property that's along Hatchery. It doesn't just go that way, it also heads towards Hatchery. So, within recent years, we saw 1 to 2 feet of water on that property. Now, FEMA mapping doesn't show it as being in a special flood hazard area, but we have current information, pictures, video, et cetera, from the public and city staff that show it. So we treat it as though it was in the special flood hazard area. And the floodplain management ordinance encourages that. It says, the FEMA mapping is one thing, but if you have more current information that shows this is an issue, then you potentially should use that information instead. So we did, and they had to, ultimately, analysis had to be done to establish the current base flood elevation for that property. And that ultimately would lead to the structures having a finished floor, the first floor being approximately 2 feet above grade in order to be, 1 foot above the established base flood elevation as the ordinance requires. So it is appropriate in cases where we see that the FEMA mapping is not necessarily correct and current conditions dictate that they should comply with the floodplain regulations, and the city has required that.
Do we still feel that, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in this process,
Yeah.
we need to get this done. But just curious, is there a better site, or if we pick this site now and determine later that this, and nothing's been developed there, is there a way to reallocate this site?
That's a good question.
Okay.
That is a great question. Communities do that.
Okay.
They'll do a rezoning action or something as part of a housing element, realize later, that's not exactly what we wanted to do. Let's do something different. And the state's like, okay, but you need to have it be equally effective. We can't have a loss in number of units or that kind of thing. I think that speaks to their no net loss requirement that's in the agreement with the city. You can't go zone things, as the housing element requires, and then change it and be like, nope, we're not gonna do that, and lose the number of units that have been planned for. So if the city were to pivot to another site in the future, they would essentially need to have no net loss and be planning for something similar.
And just to confirm, right now, there is no way to change the site allocation, correct?
The site inventory?
The site,
or-
sorry, I apologize, the HI-14 site that we're looking at right now,
Yeah.
there's no way to move that to a different site that we have looked at, because I know there were, and I'm not trying to put you on pressure. just
If you
curious.
wanted to do that, you would need to take several steps.
Okay.
You do, if it's not a site that's in the site inventory, you'd have to update it and go through that process. If you did choose a different site, we'd have to redo CEQA on that site. So we'd write a new initial study, we'd circulate it for 30 days, that kind of stuff. So either way, if you were to choose a different site, if it's in the site inventory, it's not in the site inventory, there's multiple steps that would need to occur to get to the point we are at tonight.
And Terry, just to confirm, I'm assuming you are bringing up the levy because you want to look at potentially moving the site, is that correct?
Well, and my concern would be placing a housing, and I've said this many times, placing any kind of housing, and particularly people who may or may not have access to transportation and all the things. And with this flood that happened over the weekend, and I drove down there, I would not have been able to get through that area with my car. And it was up almost to the door for some of the cars. So yes, I would feel uncomfortable about saying this is a good place to put housing. But here is the levee, and we don't have certainty about that. And then we have Powers Creek and the flooding issues there. And I wonder, how do they get out if that, if those two things occur at the same time?
Does the council have any questions for staff? Any additional questions? Or Gary, did you have any more responses that you'd like to provide?
Not unless there's any other questions.
I mean, just to clarify, so if we adopted this and we said, okay, move forward and declare this with the information that we have currently, it would be understood that if any Buddy were to come in for development, all of those, well, mitigation and levy, like looking at all of these possibilities, looking at NFIP and what's gonna happen for flood potential, all of those things are gonna happen, right? I mean, I would
As
think.
far as, I mean, we would use the current mapping as far as what would be required. As I noted, if flooding had been observed recently on that property, anytime recently, then we potentially would treat it like we did the Bowden property
Yeah.
on Hatchery, but we have not seen that. So if somebody were to come in, obviously they'd need city-owned property. So they'd have to start with getting into an agreement with the city. And then once they go to propose their application, and do construction, ultimately they would have to comply with all those mitigation requirements. But if the site is shown as being out of a special flood hazard area, and we don't have a reason to believe otherwise, then it wouldn't be subject to the city's floodplain management regulations.
Gotcha. And Terry, your concern is with egress. I mean, they wouldn't be able to leave
Well, and.
or
that-
emergency personnel wouldn't be able to get in, or.
Right, and that would be part of my concern, and the other part of my concern is that I believe in talking with Hank and looking at information that the levy needs some work. And I would like to see us move forward and not compromise. I would not
Agreed,
want to be
yeah.
the person who would be put down there. And it seems like this is the way, is often to put it maybe in a place that we're being asked not to. That was part of the state saying, we can push this through, make it faster, but you have to make sure it's not in a floodplain. And for me, this feels like kind of mincing just because they haven't updated their maps, but we don't fit any of the guidelines. And
Right.
what they're saying to us doesn't match up. We don't meet the federal code for that. And so those
yeah.
two things don't mesh together. And so for me, I'm saying I'm willing to put housing down there. And I even look at that old picture you have, and what you notice is there's no housing down there. So before they started this, their concern was that was all a floodplain down there. And so we build the levee and then houses get closer and closer, but that particular place, the levee did breach, it did break, and there was a failure on the levee, and it was a severe failure in 1964, and according to the documents, it makes it sound like there wasn't, but the Army Corps of Engineers report on the 64 flood says that it was.
Yeah,
It was
but
a
let's be
major-
clear, I mean, they did improvements after that. It's not like that happened and they just said, oh.
Right,
They did improvements and it got accredited, and the mapping in the 80s shows that when they did the flood insurance study and all that.
Right.
So I don't want it to sound as though the 64 flood damaged the levee and then nothing was done about it. That's not the case.
correct,
So,
they did some
yeah.
major improvements, obviously, because
Yeah,
of,
it
well,
was accredited, say 15, 20 years after that, so, yeah.
okay. And then the confluence of the MAD changed, and it's where the North Fork and the MAD come together, and that wasn't the case prior to that. So now we have all these years of that being the case, of that river running right up against the levee, and I would just like to know more about it.
And then we have a 10-year-old assessment that says, yeah, it's all right.
It's generally okay.
That doesn't account for the increase in our moisture
Yeah.
coming from the sky.
Yes, and that would be the other thing, we're seeing things come faster, stronger, and, there was a very large flood in 55, another one in 62, that no one seems to talk about, but there is a report, and it actually says in October of 62, the water rose for 3 days, and that there was a break in the levee in 62 as well, because it talks about in the Army Corps of Engineers report how they flew a reconnaissance over the river to study the breakthrough. And yet that seems to be totally, I'm guessing they were pretty embarrassed. But anyway,
Well, yeah, major
That it
flood
kept
events
breaking and
can
they
do
kept
all sorts of
building it.
things.
Yeah.
That may just be par for the course, but yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Any additional questions?
I don't know.
Councilmember Napier? No?
I would just, number one, I do want to, sorry, not,
It's okay.
I want to thank Terry for diving deep on this, because this is really important information, so thank you for bringing that up. I'm totally comfortable moving forward on this tonight. And as we can see, 2 years ago, and again, this weekend, we had flooding happening in town that we hadn't had for 25 years. So if we're heading into a new and more exciting time around here with water, we're gonna be finding out pretty soon.
So,
And so we're gonna have plenty of opportunity to reassess and move that HI 14 situation somewhere else if we need to, so.
great.
Gary, what would be your professional recommendation at this point, given our status with HCD? Would it be to approve this tentatively and move forward on it, or would it be,
It wouldn't be tentative.
I mean,
Tentative about it.
sorry, apologies.
The recommendations at the beginning of staff report, we just got through asking questions of city staff, public hearing, public comments. Ultimately, though, the recommendation is conduct a second reading and adopt ordinance number 546.
Great.
Which HCD is expecting we would provide to them prior to or by December 31st of this year.
Great. Tentatively, no. I'm going to go ahead and ask the public, do they have any comments on this item?
I'm with Terry. I'm with Terry, I think.
Do you want to come up here and speak? Apologies.
Well, I just think when you do things, you do them by fact, real fact, not by old information that is no longer relevant to your situation, and vote on something that's not real. And so, I mean, when she said that, I mean, I'm not up on this at all, but she brought a bucket load of information that's relevant and timely, I think. And I think it needs to be looked at, because like she says, you're putting people down in there. I mean, it's not like you're just putting a building. This could be harming people. And so I just think you need to do things in real reality, not in what was
You guys,
20 years ago.
Can
Thank
I
you.
ask
Thank
your
you.
name?
I'm Deborah Heverly.
Deborah.
I'm Jenny's mom.
That's adorable.
any further public comment? Yes, please go ahead.
I know it's important to move this forward, but I would really like some council policy on this levy certification. I would like us to find grants, move forward on trying to get our levy certified, so we know that it's gonna be safe for the people that we're gonna put down there. So I would like that to be part of a policy plan, that we move forward to adopt policy to find grants, work with the county, whatever we have to do, and it be stated that we're going to do that and do this. It's two different things, and I think it's really, really important that we protect our butts and
And there.
work on getting our levy certified.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further public comment?
Julie Christie?
Julie, go ahead.
I'm gonna sound test you guys again since the rain is hitting. Am I okay? Thank goodness. I want to really concur with Rebecca there, protecting our butts. So, I really thank everybody for their concerns, Terry especially, and John asking what Gary would put for his recommendation. One thing that we've always talked about with the Powers Creek District is the general plan. It was originally the industrial area. We keep doing this branding and this naming and these zonings, but originally the general plan, these concerns are in there. And the community plan was really set for equality of life and the fact that like there are a lot of concerns down there. And I think that these topics really prior need to have town halls. I can't even cram in what I want to talk to you guys about with this right now, but I'm gonna try. There's a lot of missed opportunities, like taking advantage of ADUs in our area. Like Eureka did a great presentation on that. I've got the info on it. I'll send it to one of our council members. There's incentives, there's ordinance, there's tax stuff. So like The timeline that we need to do for these multifamily housings for, like, Gary just said, the 31st, that really is regulating where we're at right now. I did look into the Rancheria studies they did. I did this way back years ago when we first talked about the ozone, because they were starting their health clinic down there. Now, the Rancheria gets out of some of the CEQA stuff like we do now with the negative declaration, but we still are going to have that geotechnical evaluation, which I think is very important to have. I think we need to have an engineer in there that knows what the heck they're doing. Maybe even get a hold of Rancheria for the same people they got, because liquefaction was a real situation. Also, we have a fault line on that ridge, and I do have concerns with flooding down there. We've not only got a levee that is being overgrown with all the willows, it's like taking away all the riprap. It's not completed. The roof dam's another huge concern. I mean, I'm dealing with downriver from them mitigating the river too. Like, we can't look at stuff that happened in 2012 and say that's our river now. Oh my God, you guys, it's changing every year. And I got in a lot of trouble when I mentioned certain names that have power in the county to decide where people get to take gravel and how it mitigates our river. I'm not going to say that name right now because I don't want to get in trouble for it again. But there are certain people that have certain powers that decide where this river goes, and they need to work with our city. It is going to be the end of us if we don't start working with these entities within it. And so bringing up Hank Seaman, Hank has been working with our city, you guys. He's been involved with them a lot with that trail and everything they've been planning. Like, don't think Hank's coming out of nowhere, just FYI. And I'm glad he's reaching back out to you guys now, but for him to play ignorant, that's not fair to us because we have a lot of problems coming up. The county's broke. Caltrans is having problems even facilitating. We just had a big thing at HCAW. We're losing a lot of tax stuff. They want to start charging you for every mile you drive. So we have to pull together as a community and think about what is quality life for us. And that's where I'm going to go back to missed opportunities. We really have missed some opportunities to focalize on other areas in our community. No offense, where you guys are is the best place to be building. No offense. Can we put that? So anyways, we have to think about the transport with everything. So yep, I'll leave it. Town hall next time, homie. Town hall. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julie.
Full disclosure, I forgot to set the timer on that and started off at, so apologies.
So she got her full 30 minutes.
All right, any other public comments? All right, bringing it back to council. I'm feeling we're divided right now. I'm not really sure where we're standing on this. Is this a read? Are we voting on this or is this just a reading?
This is your second
Recommendation.
reading for the
Yeah.
ordinance adoption, which means that there will need to be a motion of some sort and a vote.
Do we want to entertain a motion?
Yes, I would love to make a motion.
Sure.
Do we have it written out here for me? It is motion to approve the second reading and acceptance of this ordinance number 546. If we can accept it in name only and not have to read the whole thing.
So you're going to waive the reading of the text, consent
Yes.
to read by title.
I thought that's what I said.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Great.
We have a
Paraphrased.
motion by Napier,
Second,
second by Scafani. All those in favor say aye.
We'll actually
Okay.
do
Is
a
this a
roll
roll
call.
Oh, thank
vote.
you, thank you.
Yep. Napier,
Yes.
Louis Lusso,
Aye.
Sawatsky,
Aye.
Scafani,
aye.
Gales. Thank you.
I would like to note, though, I think we do need to follow up on the
I'm
levy.
sorry?
I would like to make a side note, I do
For
want to
sure.
follow up on the levy at a later point.
Yeah.
I do want to make it clear, it is not because I oppose housing, it's because I oppose the location.
We agree with you.
Yes, we go.
We just don't have the
Here we
luxury.
are.
I know,
Right.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, that got
Stuck
burned up.
between
Thank you,
a
Gary.
rock
Put
and a
out.
levee.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item number 10. Discuss and consider approval of city manager employment agreement with Jenny Short.
This is why most people are here. Just putting that out there. Oh my
All right,
gosh.
so staff or legal, would you like to fill us in on this item?
I can go ahead and jump in here. I just had to find my My voluminous notes
Yeah.
here. Well, congratulations, you guys. You've gone through a pretty extensive recruitment process and interviewed a number of candidates. And you've landed on a candidate, had a successful negotiation with that candidate. And the item before you this evening is the approval of a one-year contract with Ms. Jenny Short as your next city manager. On a side note, I will simply say this will be my last council meeting, and I've really enjoyed working with you, but I'm really also looking forward to being able to work with Jenny and provide some of the transitional systems to really help, position the city to move forward. You've had a rough year, but I think you'd be in really great hands with Jenny and what she's going to be bringing forward. So with that, the request is that you would appoint Ms. Jenny Short to serve as the city manager for the city of Blue Lake, and that you would approve that city manager employment contract so that it's effective January 5th of 2026.
Can we have a goodbye party or something for you?
Of course. Bring me cookies and I'll be here.
Okay.
So with that, we're available to answer any questions. I believe Ryan is still on the line as well if you want to have something more specific around some of the legal questions.
Great, thank you. Council, do you have questions or comments?
No, excited.
Yeah, I think congratulations to the city of Blue Lake
Yeah.
on this. And boy, like I had written in an email, lightning strikes twice. Jill came in with just the right attitude and skill sets and at a critical time. And I really appreciate that you're available to avail yourself to Jenny, not just in a transition, but maybe in future projects as well, so. And just to take the opportunity as part of the ad hoc on this, as a reminder to the public, that we worked with Tri-Peppy Smith throughout this process. They had a very robust advertising to that. We had a good many applicants. We went with their recommendations, I'd say, every step of the way as far as their screening and, taking from a large pool and reducing that to smaller ones. And, I'm pleased to say that we had, Jill also involved in that process. And we even had a panel of other city managers, not related here, but other city managers that questioned the candidates and came back with some really positive feedback. So I thought that was, I appreciate that the other council trusted us to try to shepherd this process through. And Tri-Peppy Smith really made it easy for us because they took of the, they kept us on point as well as Jill. So.
Michelle, any comments?
No, just really looking forward to working with you.
Connie?
I'll just kind of second what Kat said as also being a person on the ad hoc committee. So, yeah, I very much appreciate the professional guidance that we got from Tri-Peppy Smith and feel comfortable with how wide a net they did cast. And we did get quite a number of applicants. And applicants came from all over the state and some from out of state. So it was nice to see, that nice response and know that that in that pool of people, our best candidate was sitting right here. So.
And I want to say how much I'm looking forward to working with you. I was really excited throughout the process and having the opportunity to speak with you. And I just think it's going to be a really nice fit. So, welcome.
Jenny, do you want to come up and say some words?
I don't have very many words.
I really am honored that out of all the people that you had as applicants, that you picked me, and I'm really excited to accept the position here. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I really appreciate the confidence that you have in me. I'm a collaborative person, and so I really look forward to collaborating with you and with the staff that's at the city, and also with the public at large and the residents that are here. A heartfelt thank you to you, Jill. I cannot imagine taking this position if you hadn't been here. Keeping the ship afloat and taking care of all the emergencies and bringing things back under control it's a major undertaking, and you should be proud of the work that that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, but thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the public wish to ask any questions?
I'll just go home and ask mine.
Okay. Julie Christie, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, John, and everybody that is being patient with me on Zoom all the time. I appreciate it. I had a happy New Year's with my baby lambs, and you can't even imagine. And it's a new year every time. And Jenny, the only time you live right down across a few blocks from me, and the only time I really got to meet you when Nona was running for council, and we were going around our neighborhood, and I went with her to meet people, and we ended up in you're in Jason's house. And that's the last time I spoke to you. And man, you were such a breath of fresh air then. And right now, I feel like you are an amazing other fresh air, dude. And I appreciate that our council is supportive. I appreciate they went through the process that we were all hoping and expecting as a community. And I'm really happy to get somebody back from home a little bit too. That's really important right now. And Jill, sister, you're amazing. Thank you so much for what you stepped up and did for our community. I can't repay you any more than just literally telling you I'm not leaving my barn tonight because I have babies coming in, and please pull down. I'd love to give your family some like hamburger or like sausage or something delicious. I'm not joking. Like, I'm seriously legit, Jill. Like, I'm down here, pull down. Otherwise, you guys, I really look forward to our future. It's an amazing New Year's. God bless us all.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask a question, but I don't have to stay.
You
Yes,
do.
you do.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah, now you really do.
You go-
I didn't plan this out, so
You'll do fine.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Well, you heard me speak earlier, so, in the past, and even currently, because everybody's so overwhelmed here lately, it's been really, difficult for residents who are dealing with emergencies, critical situations impacted by the city, to have access to staff. So I just want to ask you, are you willing to make time to respond to residents' concerns? It's been really a struggle, so much so that I want to leave here. But I'm hoping that, things will change.
Yeah, I mean, my plan is to have
So we can, you give her your mic so we can hear her.
I can come back there. My initial plan is to have office hours that people can make appointments to come in and talk about the different concerns they have. And I know Jill has a whiteboard going, and I would like to continue on that tradition and having places where people can put their issues up there. And as they come in, we'll add them to the list of things that we're working on, realizing that there's a lot of emergencies, and I'm one person and can only do so much. But it definitely is my desire to hear what the community has to say and then put them on a list to start working on.
Any other questions for Jenny?
Oh.
All right.
I started in December asking for a city clerk. I brought the council information. I just want a balance of power in our city again. It was demolished, and we need a city clerk so that you can really do a great job for us, which I think you're gonna do. Jill has it has been so amazing for this city, bringing us back together. I just can't thank her enough. And I know you're gonna carry on that tradition, but I want you to have help. And you need a clerk.
Yeah.
We need a city clerk. You can't be everything.
Yeah.
Jenny, do you want to comment on that, or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I was asking you the same question, like, how soon is the city clerk coming?
We're working on it.
Last call for public comment. All right, I'll bring it back to council. Angela, you want to go ahead?
I just wanted to say so much. Thank you, Jill. What would we have done had you not stepped in? You've been absolutely amazing. So grateful for you. And perfect timing. And it is pretty amazing that we found someone from home. I love that. So thank you, and I look forward to being there.
Thank you. All right, last call. Seeing none, let's bring it back to council. I just want to say, Jenny, congratulations. Yeah. Are we ready to entertain a motion?
I would like to move that we appoint Jenny Short as our next city manager.
We have a mo-
And to line 2.
And line 2, approve the city manager employment agreement effective January 5th, 2026.
We have a motion by Scafani,
Second.
seconded by Louis Lusso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. It passes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And thank you, Jill.
Yeah.
Can I just add one more thing?
Sure, yes, please.
So it's not just the community, of course. It's also, you're inheriting some really amazing staff members who have been really kind of tasked this last year with a lot of leadership upheaval, a lot of, community upheaval. So I think that they're looking forward to some continued stability. And, I look forward to being able to introduce you to all the staff members and help to shepherd through that as well. And that'll be the next piece of helping to create just a really good, stable organization for moving forward in order to deal with all of the different, community issues that exist here. So, yeah, I look forward to it.
Thank you. All right, item number 11, receive and approve revised fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, resolution 1248.
So I'm going to do something a little unusual. I'm actually going to stand at the podium in order to kind of walk everybody through the information this evening. You've got the PowerPoint. I'll just tell you to advance the slide when I think I'm ready.
Okay.
You might notice that I've got some animated, to like unveil certain text messages at certain times. But anyways, there's been a little bit of a change around some of our recommendations, but I'm going to kind of walk through because I think it's important that kind of see how we've gotten here. So I'm going to go ahead and be presenting some of the key budgetary revisions and recommendations for this third revised fiscal draft. Real quick, Justin, do you need me to turn one mic off or on?
It won't matter.
Okay, very good. Next slide, please. You'll note that in the staff report, on page 2, it was the last paragraph right above the fiscal impact, that there's a notation that the budget version has been submitted to the city's accountant for review to ensure some accuracy and some additional refinements if were necessary. We'd bring it to you before council this evening. And as a result of just some additional work, and I'll back up and say that we were working on revising this budget up until 3 o'clock on Friday evening and then getting this packet published. So we had, some apprehensions around some of the numbers, but, it's what we had, sent them off. And, so we had some requests into Scott, and then it was really wonderful. Jenny did a deep dive on this budget, and so she and I had the opportunity to go over a lot of those items yesterday. And so when we had some conversations with Scott, it was like, yeah, we fundamentally need to kind of change where we're at. So we are going to have a differing recommendation, but that being said, I want to walk you all through the work that has been done since November 25th, where we are today, and the changes that we do need to continue refining because of some the new information and clarifications that we got from Scott. Next slide, please. So, as you know, we had the meeting on I did this again. November 25th is what it should say. I reversed my 23 and 24th. And we did receive and had a pretty extensive conversation with the some specific directions from council for both numeric objectives as well as incorporating some findings and recommendations from the ad hoc committee. Those recommendations were also attached to the minutes from that particular meeting because I was trying to find a place to make sure that we are memorializing those minutes. So for December 23rd, this was to be the presentation of the third revised budget. Next slide, please. So as you'll recall, the budget that is before you is based on the fiscal year 24-25 budget, and that was the projected actuals ending April 30th. And the next version budget that you saw had the November revised budget being the projected actuals ending June 30th of 2025. I'm seeing more text going up and I'm realizing I can't talk that fast. I can, but nobody's going to follow me. With that meeting for the at the November meeting, just to recap, there was the incorporation of the city manager recruitment, the salary, and the assessment of the FRMS clawback that was being asked for, as well as some of the recall cost estimates. And there were a couple of other shifts that had been previously identified within that budget. And so there were some differences just looking at that July version versus that November version. But it really didn't, differentiate too far from what the July numbers were, because we just weren't able to get in and do that deeper dive. And that's part of what we've been trying to do since that meeting of November 25th. So this third revised draft, it just simply allowed us to go deeper in by going into each individual fund and general ledger number by general ledger number. And we just looked at the actual expenditures to date, as well as revenue, but really the expenditures from July 1st until December 4th, trying to get a little bit more ground truthing around, well, this is how much it's saying that the budget is going to be, but in reality, how much we've been spending. And so we were able to start making some pretty significant, reductions in there. And so, if you look at it, and some of it you'll think, oh, it's a $500 reduction here, it's a $2,000 reduction there, it's, and you're going through, but, you start doing that with all the different GLs and all the different funds, and we really started realizing there's been some over cushioning in some of the areas, primarily because it's been based on prior year expenditures, and we just haven't had that opportunity to look deeper. So there were, in the budget that you have before you, and I really want to acknowledge and thank Emily for all of her diligent and very detailed work, because a lot of it pertained to the two departments that she's been involved with. But she, was even looking at some of the advertising costs. So the advertising is typically going to be kicking off at the beginning part of the summer in order to prepare for the summer activities with the recreations department. And when you think about that, kicking it off at the beginning of summer means June, July. And then you've got your program cost in the next fiscal year. So she was able to tighten up some costs by being able to defer into the next fiscal year, 25-26. We were looking at any and everything in order to kind of pull some of the expenditures back, for this year, so that we can start getting back to not quite zero-based, accounting, but really trying to get us closer to, a baseline. One of the other things that occurred was the Greenwood truck route. We had received the reimbursement for that. A portion of those monies will end up being allocated into the prior fiscal year, but there will be a portion of funds that come into this year. So there were a number of different, activities that occurred there. In the course of doing all of this work, we got the budget into the black. And actually, when we hit negative $1,965, we were actually really excited. We're like, we are so close. This is good. Maybe we call it done. but we kept going. And, so obviously you saw what our projected total surplus was going to be, and it's not quite that. But we did find that we were able to bring the city into the black, and from that, we were able to incorporate some of the priorities that council members had expressed as being some, priority fundings. Not quite everything that you wanted, but, we'll go from there. In particular, what we were looking at incorporating were some funds so that there could be training for city council members, that there would be training for the city manager, that there would be training for the city clerk. Because if you look at some of your older training numbers, you had $50 that you guys were spending on training activity. It's not enough for what the city really needs to have and deserves to have in terms of the ability to undertake training to better position your staff and your council members to become more effective within your community.
Right.
The other thing that we discussed was an allocation for audio and visual improvements for, ta-da, this room, and help to meet some of the objectives underneath SB 707. Some of the other costs are, some things that we were funding were outside services, so that the city could take a look at revamping the personnel classification and salary pay plans. That's going to become more relevant as we start talking about some of the areas that we were really running into while making this deeper dive into the budgetary numbers. There's also a small amount, $5,000 for that transitional assistance if you need me that long. Next slide, please. So this slide mirrors the budget that you have in your packet. I did not make any changes to these numbers, even though we know that there's going to be some changes to these numbers. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't changing things up too much. Really important to kind of keep everybody, kind of point on task. And should things change, you'll know exactly why things did change. The city's total projected revenue that was presented in November was $2,712,825. This has gone up just a hair. Even though there is a loss of some projected revenues that are a result of the recreational programs. So if we end up reducing or discontinuing recreational programs, there will be a corresponding reduction of tuition monies that come in for that. The largest component of the increase is related to the reimbursement that the city received from Cal OES for the water tank replacement project. Now, again, like the Greenwood project, you are going to see that there's going to be some bit of a portion that is going to be applied to the 24-25 fiscal year versus here. We don't have that number yet. We're still waiting for Scott. So that's an optimistic number, but it's a number that we can kind of get our heads wrapped around. Next slide, please. So the total estimated expenditures that were presented in the November budget was $2,919,365. And this revised budget is decreased that to $2,681,727.
Wow.
Those projections are based primarily on, as noted, the prior year expenses with some adjustments for the anticipated programs or project cost reductions. The expenditures on the slide are going to need to continue seeing some revisions based on the information that we received from the accountant this afternoon. So some of them may end up bumping up a little bit more than we had anticipated. Next slide, please.
Can I ask who the accountant is that you're referring to?
Oh, absolutely. So the city has had an agreement with Jackson and Eklund, and the individual that we've been working with is a gentleman named Scott Gordon. Yeah. And he's been out on leave for a little bit. He's recently returned to providing services. So we've been able to avail to his services more since about October 28th. So this has been a bit of a decline in time. So with respect to the projected general fund expenditures, again, looking at the numbers that were in your packet, there have been a couple of changes as a result of the shift. The general fund deficit was $170,000, $648, excuse me, $648, thank you. And this revision is now actually a positive 2,497. This will change after we do some more refinement with Scott. But the general government now represents 31%, which is up from 26% from the prior presentation that we gave you in November. The recreation department remains at 23%, and park facilities is at 16%. That was up 1%. The public works department increased from 11% to 15%, and planning went from 10% down to 6%. And the remaining departments are at less than 4%. And, that's specific to the general fund expenditures. Next slide, please.
Can you repeat planning, where it was and what it is now? I couldn't see.
Yeah, so planning was 10%, and then it dropped down
Okay.
to 6%.
Okay.
And something was happening in this slide, and I keep losing planning. And I thought I had it put back in, but it should be that golden, or the goldenrod.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
so somehow that label kept disappearing.
Okay.
Next slide, please. So I think one of the things that I really want to impress upon you guys, and this has been really part of a big challenge, is a couple things. One is I'm working with somebody else's work papers. Don't know all of the assumptions that have gone into it. It's really easy to say prior year based, accounting, but I don't know what other steps were included in there. And so not having some sort of a reference point for, we think this is going to happen, or we're projecting this. If those were part of the conversation, it did not make it through the numeric, values. So that's, challenge number one. Challenge number two is, I'm working very closely with Emily, and I've been working with Vicki, and getting different fund accounts, and working with Scott as I'm able to work with him. And we've been trying really hard to pull this whole thing into a package so that we can hand it to the next city manager, and they're going to have a really clear pathway of how we got here, right? And so I was really hoping that we were going to be able to have a budget for adoption, not one that I'm going to say, hey, here, why don't you continue? I mean, continuity is really important, and that consistency. But we are where we are, in large part because that prior history of how we got here, and then we need to develop a budget, and we're already 6 months into the fiscal year.
Yeah.
And so there have been goals and objectives, right? So we want you to reduce $170,000 from the general fund in order to get to a balanced budget. But we've already expended 6 months of the year. So it's really posed some significant challenges. Many of the summer programs and the salary costs that are associated with this fiscal year have already been incurred. I can't go back and change that. So we are looking to make some revisions to the tune of about $80,000. That's out of a combined park and recreations division. One of the things that I feel like has gotten a little lost, I could be wrong, but I'll just say it, and I feel like it's gotten lost. A lot of people think park and recreations as if it's a singular entity. These are actually two different departments. Right. Two different departments that are actually managed by two different managers. So recreations has been managed by Emily, and then parks has been both Emily and Glenn Public Works. So there's a little bit of a dance which needs to happen as we start talking about reining in expenditures and being more mindful around the coordination and planning of future expenditures. So, more specifically, recreation activities are having less of a financial impact within the Parks division than it is Public Works performing ground maintenance, the repairs, and the monitoring, and that's where the bulk of the money is being expended, are for. So, those are pretty hard and fixed. And so I think there's some strategies that could be employed, and certainly some operational things that we can do. But it is really important that you guys have an understanding of that little bit of a dynamic that may not be so obvious, because I don't feel like you've also had the opportunity to have your department heads come and discuss what's happening within the departments directly to City Council. And I think that needs to be something that's going to be incorporated moving forward. Slide 9, please. So these are some of the recommendations. I don't think we're not going to ask you to make any sort of approvals at this juncture. That will come with the final budget. But this, I figure, we'll introduce it around what we've been thinking and proposing so that you can cogitate on it over the next few weeks until it comes back. So our first recommendation is to eliminate the First 5 playgroup. This is a service that used to be provided by the Resource Center, and then the city assumed the program. And funding was provided by First 5 in the form of a grant that came to the city. However, that funding was eliminated, and the city continued providing the program. Nothing wrong with that, but this is certainly something that should have come to council, because this is a discretionary activity, and then you could have weighed the benefits of continuing to provide that service without the funding or not. In October, the playgroup has been scaled back to once a week. This is the decision that Emily went ahead and moved forward. There were a few other variables that kicked in there, but the program leader for this particular program has decided to relocate out of the area. And so the program is going to be coming to an end at the end of December.
We've had our last play group.
You've had your last play group.
We have.
So the city has already spent about $4,490 on this out of this fiscal year. And we anticipate that you'll avoid paying an additional $2,225 if the program was to have continued. So there'll be some cost avoidance relative to this particular program. The next item that we're proposing is the elimination of the summer camp. The proposal recommendation is based on the fact that there is already an existing program which is being provided by Blue Lake Elementary School, as well as the Arcata and Eureka programs. This fiscal year, in running some of the numbers, you are one child short of breaking even.
Ooh.
And so the majority of the program costs have already been incurred at about $34,000. And the revenue that came in was about $33,000. It was like right there on that cusp. So it was a loss of about $1,329. The program normally would recommence in May, late May, early June. So there will be some avoided cost for 25, 26, but it's not really going to make a big dent in this particular fiscal year budget. Moving forward, and I hope I get all of this, the details right, and I've told Emily to just, chime in as is appropriate. This program generally generates about $80,000 a year. Your skate programs over here at Prush Hall, and that is between admission and concession sales. And that nets, after you factor out those expenditures, about $40,000 a year to the city. Staffing costs are about $51,000 a year, and in having some conversations with Emily around how we can further reduce some of the costs. One of the best things to do is to go ahead and reduce the DJ events from once a month to once or twice a year. and then to reduce some of the staffing as well. Staff is needed from about 11:30 in the morning until 5 in order to help prepare the facilities for the skate nights. And of course, that's not Monday through Friday. This is when they're open on Friday and Saturday. In addition, there are private property parties that are held typically on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And hopefully all of those costs are
Can I
being collected.
clarify, that 11:30 to 5 PM is for our private parties Saturday and Sunday.
Thank
They
you.
don't work those on Friday.
Thank you for that
Of
clarification.
course.
Also reduced were some of the expenditures that are related to the concession items and supplies and related items. When I first got here, one of the earlier conversations that Emily had with me, we talked about the different foods, if you will, that were being sold at the concession stand, and kind of her wanting to weigh in. Do you want us to continue providing all of, this wide array of menu activities? Public health requires that you have different tiers of permits for the different kinds of food service that you're providing. So we've really scaled back to having just prepackaged, pre-canned kind of food stuffs. That reduces the need for having that higher tiered permit. But more importantly, in my opinion, you're also reducing your food waste. And enough said as far as the food waste is concerned. So, we really looked at trying to scale that back initially when I got here. I think we started that conversation about my second or third week. So there, are going to be some savings, but, not a lot. But overall, there's been that reduction for the concession items. The next item that we've had a pretty big conversation around has to do with the green waste. We're proposing to eliminate 2 of the free green waste drop-off days. The city has already held 2 of the free green waste days. I don't know, and I realize that I'm coming at this from, my background with solid waste recycling and green waste processing understanding. But green waste processing costs have gone up tremendously in the last couple of years. There's a lot of different reasons as to why that is happening. But at one time when I started, we were at $47.50 a ton. I actually don't even know exactly where they are now. They're probably close to $180 a ton. Your funding source for being able to support the green waste disposal has remained static. You get $7,000 a year from AB 939 pass-through fees, which are collected by HWMA, transferred over to the city, and the city is able to use those monies at their discretion. Different cities do different things with those funds. Some people put it into education, some people put it into waste reduction. The city of Blue Lake has put it into being able to have free green waste disposal. But with the increased cost of green waste disposal at 4 times a year, you're starting to go backwards. The city is now having to subsidize these free green waste days. I really dislike the word free. It's something I really worked hard to eliminate when I was at HWMA. It's like, we call it no charge because we are getting it somewhere. You might not see it, but it's buried in a tip fee. So it's not really free. And I think that the more we have people understand that we can call it free, but we're ignoring the fact that there are actually costs that are associated with providing the services, for that. So the free, the 4 green waste days cost the city about $7,600, and I think you guys get a little over $7,000 from HWMA. So our recommendation is that you consider reducing that from 4 to 2. This one might be a tricky one because I think a lot of people really like having that green waste disposal.
Yeah. Anyway.
I like
Yeah.
skate nights. But.
So I'm going to have you.
Next slide.
Oh, you know what? The one thing I forgot to really touch on, and I can't believe I did this, and I'm so sorry. We are not proposing any changes to the wood bat program. The wood bat program. And I had to ask Emily, so what exactly is this wood bat thing? So it's the adult softball league that the city has, and it's really well supported. It's a program which also, like the skate, has has had a positive financial impact to the city, and probably more importantly, this is one of the strategies that you use to develop community support. People from all walks, all persuasions are able to come together and engage in a community activity, be a little competitive. But I think these kinds of programs are really important for, to support for communities. That's, it's my personal editorial. Next item, please. So part of our deep dive, has been looking at a number of items. So one, I want to acknowledge Karina Green. I don't think she was fully prepared for this one in some ways, but her photo of the porta potty that we saw in October, it's kind of this, well, I understand that, now they've got it up on elevated and it shouldn't be, tilting wildly in the event of some flooding, but it does beg the question, do we really need to have a porta potty at the arena during wet weather events? How frequently are people actually using them? That's not a free porta potty. The city is renting that porta potty. In addition, you've got the porta potty, which is located at the town square. By removing them just for the wet weather months, we anticipate that that's going to reduce the cost from $5,000 a year to $2,200 a year. So that's, I'm sure some people will be unhappy with that, but we're looking everywhere in order to just start doing that belt tightening.
Yeah.
One of the other items has to do with solid waste. This was a little bit of an odd thing. The city has a franchise agreement formerly with Blue Lake Garbage. Now it's been assigned over to Humboldt Sanitation. As part of your franchise agreement, the city does have built-in no-cost bins that are provided through that franchise agreement for the city's use. Those are smaller bins than the city currently has, and that takes care of the city's solid waste and the recycling items. Now, at some point, the city had decided to enter into paid bin services, and so they're larger bins, and the city is paying at the regular commercial rate. If the city goes down to the smaller bins in order just to handle the city's generated waste and recycling, that will affect both the doghouse and the resource center because they are currently disposing their materials into those city paid bins. So use your free bins. That's part of what you have your franchise agreement for, and then assess whether you need to, bring in another, bin at a smaller size. But right now, you're paying for, I think, a 3 cubic yard as opposed to having a 1.5, and those add up pretty quickly. So another item was that the city has commercial refrigeration units that are located at the sandwich cooler and the service booth, and they're only being used once or twice a year, perhaps, but they are plugged in 24/7. So the other one is that there's a commercial stove, and it is also in an continual operation of the pilot. Grand scheme of things, is probably not a huge consumer of electricity, but let's look everywhere we can in terms of being able to rein in some of those costs. So Emily's going to correct me here. When did you have those turned off?
About a month ago.
About a month ago. So we have not yet seen the utility bill, and so we'll be taking a look at what that utility bill is and see how measurable that reduction is going to be. So yeah, they were disconnected, and we'll just be monitoring those the bills. Another item is to regulate access to the public bathrooms in order to reduce some of the vandalism which is occurring, as well as some supply misuse, shall we say, and theft. Some of that supply misuse is not just, oh, hey, I'm going to take home as many rolls as I can take home. Sometimes is how many rolls can I put into the toilet for backing up, and then our staff is having to go out and unclog things.
We've had our main line clogged twice last year, which took a significant amount of Glen Public Works time to finish, and it was deep into Prash Hall. So as you can imagine,
That's awful.
yeah,
And that's the units right over here.
the one over there, and it's normally through paper towel flushing or excessive toilet paper flushing.
Is that in the back of the building or
The clog was almost made it all the way to the women's restroom by how much they were flushing.
where are the bathrooms that you're talking about?
The public restroom,
They're inside Crash Hall.
Oh, so they're, it's
but
happening.
the damage occurred actually in the public restroom located outside
Oh,
Crash
I see what
Hall,
you're saying.
and the
Yeah.
clog was
Outside.
so severe.
Right.
Where the little
Yes.
apartment is, just right here across the street.
That's, oh.
Yeah, there's a little restroom right there. They were flushing toilet paper down and going all the way, following along the line, all the way into the middle of Crash Hall.
How often is that restroom open now?
Now we close it when we leave at 5. It used to be open over the weekends, but especially in the wetter season, people will sleep in there, shower in there, anything you could imagine.
Yeah.
And obviously, it takes staff time when we come back to clean it up.
So,
It's on the topic of the public restroom, so definitely the vandalism is an issue, and thank you guys for dealing with it. If we're removing all access to all of these public restrooms, we still have a contingent of homeless, unhoused people that come through that would need a place to go. I mean, I think that's still something that we have to, I mean, we can remove all of these facilities, but it still happens. So do we want to provide a place?
and this is exactly why this is, as much as I would have loved to have been able to say, here's what we're proposing, adopt the budget. Maybe this goes into some of your considerations so that we bring something back and we say, we're like 99%. And if you want to make a small adjustment, we can make that adjustment and finalize the agreement. But it will help you maybe understand and appreciate this dive that we've been trying to do in terms of identifying where there could be some opportunities for being able to curtail some cost. One of the other items that I don't have a bullet for whatever reason, on my slide, is the reduction for janitorial services from Restif, and the consolidation from using 2 pest companies into a singular pest company. I can't explain that. I know this is the hard part. Like I said, I can't explain how or why certain things have been developed, but it's been identified that we could just simply consolidate to use one pest control company as opposed to paying 2. And then, of course, you've already seen this particular line item around the importance of the revenue enhancement strategies. So we really need to take a look at reviewing and adjusting the fees. As we had talked about the last go-round, the building permit fees were last adjusted in 2011. Recreational fees, I think, have been a little bit of hit and miss. I think depending on certain times, maybe even certain interest, some of those have gotten adjusted. I don't know for certain around the facility and building rental fees. And the event and special event fees in particular. Typically what you see during the budgetary process from most agencies is that when you're considering a budget, you're also including any sort of fee increase at the same time so that it goes into effect when the budget goes into effect. 6 months into it, it's going to be a little hard, so you're not going to see a whole lot of benefit if you're able to get this done, because it'll still take you another 3 months to be able to generate this information. But it's going to position you for purposes of that fiscal year 26-27. The water and sewer, I think this is where some of Jenny's experience is going to be able to really sing and really help to determine whether some of the changes that are necessary are based more in policy, or if they are based more in the need to actually start seeing an increase of potential rates, and she can help guide a consultant through that process. Obviously, part of the role that your city clerk has played in the past has been ensuring the collection of various license fees, including the animal licenses, business licenses, some of the day vendor licenses. And also being able to review and track your transient occupancy taxes. You guys are showing it like a little, you're under $800 in TOT. And I did a quick look on the number of Airbnbs and VRBOs within Blue Lake. I don't have a sense of what their occupancy rates are, so that is the determining factor. But it strikes me that $800 in TOT is probably low, and you're probably missing on some opportunities to collect some of those funds. Next item, please. So I threw this underneath the personnel heading, if you will. We did a lot of work on Friday, in particular looking at Fund 60 and Fund 70. And we had identified it appeared that the part-time labor budget, so if you look at 5002, because those numbers are still there, there's a pretty fair amount of money that's getting spent in that part-time budget. And so we were thinking it was over cushioned, and that could be an area where we could reduce from that original July draft budget. And what we've learned is that some of that money has been because there's been an on-call, and the rounds have been attributed into that line item. And that was not a correct place. And then there's an additional line item for line 5014. And so it appears there may be a double allocation of that. So we were looking at it in the terms of, well, it seems like that's like some padding here. Can we drop it down? We were all looking at the same things. She took a slightly different approach, and it just raised that question of, oh, we need to actually do a deeper dive, on this. So what we thought was over cushioning, there may be something else going here. So we got into some of the labor worksheets themselves, and one of the things that we learned was there are about 8 different labor sheets. And we don't know for certain which one was being used to develop this budget. What we did learn is that the labor sheet that was being used to feed all the numbers did not include your favorite city clerk position. So it's for this reason that we're kind of wanting to pull back a little bit in order to get some answers around that. The other one is that the town square repayment was not included in the draft July budget. And that represents an expenditure of a little over $11,000, $11,250. In thinking back a little bit and having read some of your older minutes, there was a request that council move forward with the payoff. I think the assumption was that council would approve it, and because they were developing the budget, it didn't carry through. So that is short, and that is going to be in the, was it Fund 38?
Fund 38.
Fund 38. So right now it says 0, I believe, but
Yes.
it's actually going to be a negative. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that. We're paying the bills. So the
7580.
the loan payment is being met, but we're going to have to figure out how to address that. There is a need to have some more clarification around the CDBG programs and allocations, so we'll be able to set up a meeting with Scott so we can get our heads wrapped around that. The other thing that I've been waiting for from Scott today is there's an appropriation of the transfer amounts. So there are monies underneath your TDA monies, your RSTIP funds. And so what happens is they're all tracked independently, and then the city transfers those funds into typically the Public Works Department. But it requires an inner transfer of funds. It requires council approval, and you identify where it's coming from, how much it is, and where you're putting it. So Scott is generating that information for us. Unfortunately, his internet went down because of all the storms and whatnot, but it's fine because we weren't going to be ready to have you guys approve that budget right now. So with all of that, we are asking council to approve Resolution 1248, to approve the fourth continuing resolution so that we can work on refining the information that you've heard this evening. And I will be able to complete the preparation of the budget booklet that you would normally get. Because with the storms that occurred this weekend, I did not get anywhere to it. I was out here looking rather soaking wet. So that concludes the presentation. I'm sorry it's not quite as happy news as maybe you guys were all looking at on Friday and go, hoo, 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 we're in the black. I think we're still going to be in the black. It's just going to be a little bit tighter than we thought it was going to be. And so there we are. If you have any questions, I think both Emily and myself are ready to respond. And I don't know, Jenny, you might want to weigh in as well.
Who's got questions?
I got one.
Okay, Elise, go ahead.
So, so what you have here today is what you thought we were gonna be adopting tonight.
That's correct.
And it's gonna change a little bit.
It's going to change a little bit.
And that will happen, it'll come back when?
I don't have a date at this point. No later than next, actually, we did have this part of the conversation. We're looking at the 27th of January. We were kind of thinking maybe we could do a special meeting, but it's going to have to be the 27th of January because of some of the information we need to get.
Okay.
So what's the difference? Well, is there anything that we could adopt tonight and then we amend it or we change it or we do something in January?
Go ahead.
I'd say in the effort of transparency, it would be more visible for the public and council to see the changes we've made in another version of the budget, because if we were to do it in a mid-year review, some of those changes may not be as clear or understandable for the average person. So I think us highlighting and looking at that overall spreadsheet we give you would make it full process, kind of what we did and how we've gotten here.
Other questions? No other questions? Okay.
Any member of the public?
Do you have questions?
Oh, we let the public go.
Okay. Public comment? Yes, go ahead. Jenny's mom.
Really minor, but I believe that the green waste day, I'm in agreement with Jill, nothing is free nor should we expect it. But the green waste day really does make a difference in how our community looks, because a lot of residents use that. I would rather see, if you have to really get to bare bones, like doing it twice a year and charging people to do it. I would pay to come, to know that you're gonna be there, then I can know what weekend I have to do it and get ready and everything. And I mean, you go along and you see all these pickups,
Yeah.
Friday stacked full of stuff, and just charge the residents to bring it down there. I mean, and another thing, ever since, you used to have pickleball for seniors, and COVID ended that, and it's never started up again. And I've come a couple times to the parks and brought that up, and but nothing's happened. And like the baseball, I think the pickleball, we just used to do it, we did it 2 days a week. You could do it 1 day a week, and just doing it during the time that they, it's during the day. So you don't have to have extra people there. The guy is there, he opens and closes it and stuff, but I would like to see that start up again here. It brought a lot of people in, and we pay to do it, a minimal, but you could even raise it if you need more money. But people from the community do it. They go all over. They go to Eureka, Arcata, McKinleyville, playing pickleball, and so I would like to see. I think it's good for us seniors to be healthy.
Thank you. Further public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Kat, I'm gonna need you to help me out a little bit here.
Okay.
Well,
I'll do it again.
Jill and Kat and I walked around to look at the storm drainage challenges that we have. And we talked about that Sunday when we were looking at what was going on, so you could see it in real time, what was happening when it floods. I didn't see anything about staff time or infrastructure funding. And we talked about that, and Kat, you recommended that there were 3 things.
Okay.
That we do need to have, we do need to prioritize some funding for infrastructure upgrades. I realize that it's very expensive. And as I said in my presentation in October, there is, for 2026, there's a lot of money at the state level for exactly this kind of thing. This is the time, for us to be focused on that, so we're ready to apply for those grants. I'm really glad that you're going to be here with us for that. I hope we can work together. We're gonna need staff time.
Would you like for me to reflect some of
Yes.
what we did?
go ahead.
Okay.
So we need, I realize we're not gonna come up with the money for this, but we need
Right.
to have that focused staff time
So when you,
to make this happen.
it's really unsettling when we have folks, the CERT team and, staff out there doing the sandbags and stuff, and you can see the water on Broderick. And when you get to Karina's house, it's just like this river flowing over the curb, not just at one spot, the whole length pretty much of her front yard. And then by the time it gets to the steps where she goes into her house, I put about a class 3 rapids there. There's enough water movement to undermine the stairs. So, and then the water was so deep, I couldn't even get to the back. Really distressing. And to know that she has a 30-year history here and then nothing, and then 3 years in a row we have flooding. So, just on a, wanting to respond and help our residents, we can't look at, this is just happening to one, and it's maybe in a flood zone, and it doesn't matter.
Well, my neighbor's is flooding too, you just can't see it because her fence is.
Right.
Well, I would have to say, if it's been 30 years since you never had problems, and now you've got problems, somebody has changed the water flow someplace.
Well, there's no, the creek isn't emptying, it's blocked.
So
There's a lot of stuff for us to work out here and figure out how to deal with,
So what we've kind of come up with is a drainage study, money for a drainage study, because we know that we see that there are, some specific areas where it's breaching, but you fix something in one location, it just creates a problem somewhere else unless you have a larger plan. That study wouldn't just happen magically, we would need to have some funds for it. We don't even know what that is, we'd have to spitball it right now. The other thing is that we don't really have any money, this is what we've discussed, we don't have any money set aside in reserves, so that if we could secure funding, maybe it required a matched funding of some sort or some kind of contribution, we have 0 for that. So wanting to be able to position the city to begin to address some of these critical infrastructure issues. And then as a reminder, it isn't just at this location on Broderick and Charton, but if you go up to the north end of Broad Street, the river begins and it takes a hard turn down A Street. And then by the time you get to Greenwood, it's really picking up some volume there. So it's where we are now as a city is we need to prepare for what is already happening and what can happen in the future. So it was funds for infrastructure, funds for drainage study, having some reserves available to be able to do match funding if that's what it is.
We have to hire the CCC to come in to do some kind of, there's just general maintenance that has not been done at all. So that, I'd like to see that in the budget somehow.
Okay. So I apologize, I went into the public comment.
I think, I'm not a professional budgeter, and this is our first budget we're developing. I think this is something, if a project came forward in the future, we could potentially allocate funds for it, correct?
So a couple things. You budget on the basis of monies that you anticipate receiving and monies that you're anticipating expending in order to further some things. You will recall that it was in October, we had learned that HCD was encouraging us to apply for some grants that would help with the seventh cycle housing element. And we subsequently learned that we don't actually, we won't be eligible for them because of some other funds that we had received. Now, that being said, the city is going to be able to avail to some funds that could help support the wastewater infrastructure. And there's a few other buckets. And so one of the things that I talked to Gary about is that I'm not going to be here. I said, but when you are looking at developing some proposals so that council can consider, drop in there, at least an initial study for a drainage, like some master drainage planning, because the city desperately needs that. We've got some old maps that were probably developed in the early 1970s, and I really don't know to what degree they went into. I think I was telling you yesterday, it was, the only ones that I can really remember were the old Barter and Yost studies that were done and that was just like mid-Humboldt County storm drain systems. But the point in the whole thing being, there may be an opportunity for the city to get into line so that you can identify this would be one of the programs that you would like to apply for. If the city is then successful in getting funding for it, then part of your budgetary adjustment would be to accept the monies, put them into this account in order to have it expended in that way, so that it ends up being incorporated in there. So we've got that as a concept floating around. I did have some conversations with the California Department of Forestry. That was part of not quite the CCC, it was the other group that they have. They actually want to see a full plan and permits and things like this. So I've got the name and the number, and Jenny will be able to pick up. I have not been able to meet with the guy directly in Fortuna just because of different schedule conflicts, but that is in there. I just haven't been able to get any further with his schedule. But yeah, the city absolutely needs to be looking at the drainage, and then of course in considering some of the concerns that Terry has brought forward, in particular around the levy. Make this all inclusive, because this is a very real thing for the city, and it's not going to fix everything, but at least you can begin to prioritize, where some of the key infrastructure improvements could be made, or where there's some opportunities where they can be made in the future. So that's why you don't see it in here right now. We don't have money to put into it, but I'm trying to figure out how we can put some identified sources so that they've got a way to get it included at a future time when the opportunity presents itself.
Great. Further public comment? Julie, go ahead.
Yep, I'm here still, and thank you, council and staff, for just taking that minute to give some clarification on things, and thank you, Dawn, for allowing that. Unfortunately, the resident has had a lot of, issues that she's brought forward to prior council and management, and so again, I'm gonna go back to like finding the root of the problem. That really, in my farmer mentality, always is prevention is key. So we are gonna have to face a lot of cuts. I've got the bill in my pocket right now to finish off B&B for MRA Arena for the year. There's little cuts that you have to make and donations that you need to receive. I helped I probably over 10 years at McKinley, at Blue Lake Arena, excuse me. I donated many years, starting the pony rides and petting zoo, and donating it back to Parks and Rec and starting Blake Saddle Club. And it really takes grassroots a lot of times. And I think really with our budget now, we're already in our fourth reading. We're probably going to have to move forward. It is a good projection of where we're sitting. Thank you for all the pie graphs, and that really puts everything in an absorption mentality, and really seeing where we are having a lot of expenditures, where we need to focus for goals in the future to sustain the funding and the revenues back. Taxing people and upping stuff obviously is never like ideal, especially with our economy right now. I can't say it enough, you guys, the county's broke. A lot of our grants we wrote in the past, look it up, was basically the verbiage of a disadvantaged community. That's how we received them. And it is still true to this day in a way of our infrastructure. It is very true. And we have to put the pressure on everybody else to kind of step up in the way of going to supervisors. We need to allocate the budgeting. Nobody speaks up there, you guys. Like when it comes to budgeting time for the supervisors, we need to speak up for these allocations, whether it's for public works or public safety. A lot of times they're misallocated because there's not enough voices there to help bring that source back to what is a proper cause. So my best advice for you guys right now is move forward with this. And every time that we can help promote getting on another forum or sending out as a council a statement to any of these higher ups, dude, we have to take advantage of it because a lot of voices add up, and that's actually what's going to help our greater community besides just us, which is really important too. Thank you.
Any further public comment? All right, we are nearing 10 o'clock. Can I entertain a motion?
So Jill, is the resolution, we need to number the resolution? Do you have a number?
We do.
It's 12:48, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
I just wanted to clarify that, but yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, council.
So just listening to all the presentation, I think I do really appreciate this deep dive going into everything. And I'm just wondering how the council would feel if we do decide to vote on this and move forward to, again, have the ad hoc maybe be part of the discussion as we move forward, trying to make the cuts and maybe give some input and some, so that's one of the things as we move forward with this, because sometimes it's hard when you get it 3 days before, and which is common, but just to we did have some ideas and thoughts when we were looking at the budget before. And this does require a time where we step up and start making some tough decisions, because we look at the budget, it's kind of one of those things where we look at it, it's the way it's always been, and you're trying to make these little slices and dices here and there. And I think one of the big issues comes up with the council has never really set its priorities. And generally, from what I'm reading from other cities, is there's a point where the council sits down in conjunction with the city and communication and the residents that live in Blue Lake, and we set the priorities. And that's what your budget flows up through. You're saying, because then you're deciding on the things that are most important to you. And right now, and we can't change it now, Jill, I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting moving forward is that you have those priorities in place so that your spending comes up through that. And then you can evaluate whether or not that's working. You're up for looking for resources and funding that's out there because they are your priorities. Otherwise, we kind of spin our wheels. So I know it looks like in order to make priorities for the things that help run our city and make the community safe, those are our ultimate priorities. So that's what we have to do, is make sure that our city is safe, it's well taken care of. You know, we have to have a fire department, a police department, we have to have the city working and the staff to make it work, and those are the most important things. So all those other things, sometimes that takes a hard hit, and we also have to really consider as we are doing this, there isn't a lot of money left over. Some things are really, they have to be spent on a certain thing, and we don't have a choice about how we spend it. And then we have just a little bit of money, and how are you going to allocate that and make the best use of it so that your city has all the things it needs? And I think that's something we have to weigh heavy on and work, and those require tough decisions.
So I want to kind of, if it's okay with the chair, mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
I really support council being involved. But I'm going to tell you what my concern is right now. We're 6 months in, we still haven't finished, and by March, you need to have a mid-year budget, and you need to be kicking in on your development of next year's budget. So there's going to be this huge compaction of time and energy for somebody who's going to be starting in about a week and a half. So, I mean, like I said, I was really wanting to get this all nicely, packaged up. We got really close, and then we found these other components in the salary, labor charges, and if it was, I think in the grand scheme of things, those costs are going to be manageable, right? But they're not insignificant. We're not talking $500, right? We're talking, probably $30,000, maybe maybe $40,000 all told. So we do need to just do a little bit of due diligence on there and get a little bit more information. But I think that moving forward with your mid-year budget, setting the goals for the development of the 26, 27, and saying we want to have community workshops, or have whether it's an ad hoc committee or a finance committee, then you start planning that in so that it can get built into the overall schedule of budget adoption. The other thing that could play a role in there is tasking your Park and Recreations Committee to start taking a look at all the fees. So you can have these, actions in parallel that will all converge into the final budget adoption. And I think that utilizing your committees, utilizing the ad hocs, that will give very specific charges with very specific deliverable dates so that you can have your budget on time. This has just been really a challenge,
Well, and I apologize because when I was talking about the council priorities and those decisions being made forward, I wasn't suggesting that for this budget.
Okay, I thought you were wanting to kind of go back.
I'm sorry.
You did too.
I was not, but I was just saying this is the welcome. I'm sorry.
That's what I thought.
Part of the reason why we're in this place
Absolutely.
is because we don't have a clear vision forward where we're going.
Well, and it's almost, it's very similar to when you guys are going through your disbursements. It is through that process of reviewing the disbursements, and you're like, what is this company, and why are we paying this? You ask the question, you get the answer, and so the next time you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Sometimes you have to be reminded of something because it just doesn't come up that frequently. But over your term being here, it allows you a deeper understanding, in terms of what all activities the city is funding. You start developing a lot of, knowledge on the basis of the inner workings of the city, if you will. So, being able to gradually incorporate that information is going to make a stronger and more engaged council.
Did we have any other comments?
I
Go ahead.
do. The budget ad hoc had several recommendations in November. And I think one of them has been stated pretty clearly that, just wondering, we were asking to see a special use fund specific for the bike park. What needs to happen in order to?
I don't have an answer for that one right now because there's a few things that are happening on that front, and I don't have an answer for you right now.
Okay.
Yeah. The funds that you have seen haven't changed.
I'm sorry.
So in August, I provided you the fund balance and the fund activities. Those have remained the same with the exception of the $5,000 in winterization costs that were donated to you in October. But otherwise, they've all remained the same. Yes, sir.
Just quick, financial question. Can you not just like log into the computer and be like, bike park fund 79 and then done?
Yeah,
or-
it's the same information that
Okay.
we provided, yeah. There hasn't, I mean, but yeah, we can absolutely, we can produce, if you're asking for the fund balance itself, yeah, we can get that for you.
No.
I thought, yeah, I was thinking you were asking for
This
something
is
different.
this is the creation of a special use fund for the bike park.
Right.
Separate from facilities, separate from recreation.
Project
This
code.
is a separate
Yeah.
fund.
I've recommended to Vicky what we create is called a project code, so you
Not a
can
fund.
extrapolate those and pull a report just for that project.
The issue that I see with that is this bike park is more than just little bumps along the way. That's being as polite as I can about it. And this is something that was to be funded by donations. And I think we need to keep that fund separate to ensure that that's what happens. Otherwise, as I'm understanding budget, and Terry, maybe you can, bring some clarity to it too. But if we house that, then it also begins to have an opportunity for more fluid motion and movement of monies between different funds. So this is really about having it very clear about this is to be a project that is funded through donations. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us for tracking and keeping it on track to have a separate fund.
Yeah.
I think that is something that, I would, if we need to make a motion to have that happen, then that's what we do tonight.
So one of the questions that I have, even with the, we put in the revenues for the recreation department a $25,000 donation, and there are no donation amounts, if you look back over the years, except for last year at $65,000, but that was a mad rush to help cover the costs for the bike park and trying to raise that money. I did attend the bike park RCMBA meeting. And so what happens if we don't bring in those donations? And the concessions were pretty high in the recreation department compared to necessarily what they've been, and it seems like we haven't been doing as much concession. So there is some concern that that revenue stream would be higher than what might really come in. So there would be some concerns there about what that looks like. So I think keeping that bike park separate, even with those donations that come into it, so that we can keep track of how that's working and not.
So there's some semantics that are here. And I understand what you're saying. You want to see a fund like it was Fund 33. And part of what we know that within the accounting system is there's actually a code that gets pulled, and it's all the activity, the revenue, and the expenditure. It doesn't show up on here like a standalone fund. So you've got your Fund 10, Fund, 33, blah, 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 blah. You don't see that on here, but those monies are represented within the recreations 425, and then it goes into the, in there. So you can run the report and you can pull it out, but you are asking for specifically a fund with the associated GLs.
A fund specific to the bike park.
Right.
So that as donations come in, we now have funding to be able to have expenditures.
Right.
But until we get that funding, then, we're not able to have those expenditures. And not robbing Peter to pay Paul and not saying, well, we have an extra $15,000 here that we can just move into that fund.
Right, I
The
understand
donations
that.
go in with that.
Okay.
And so is staff time always going to be captured under a project code?
That one I'm going to defer a little bit more to Emily. How does that work with when you're
So
tracking
most-
and your recreations?
So most staff time, for example, play group, that would, and the way we do our invoices, Fund 10 is our first number. Then we go by the GL, so those numbers on the left-hand side, the 4-digit code, and that's the line item. The third thing we put on our invoicing software is the department, for example, 445. And the last would be the project code, a 2-digit number or 1 digit. But for example, first 5 play group 05. And so when I pull a staff report, I put all those into our accountant and I pull it out. If there is no project code, if it's just 00, that's going to show me all the part-time recreation salaries in Department 445, if that makes sense. So the project codes really help me pick and pull, cherry pick exactly what program I'm trying to look at. For example, skate has a project code. Concessions, I don't believe, but that's a different GL 4-digit. But skate, that's summer camp. That has its own project code. So some of the decisions we had made with this budget revision was using those project codes. But I see what you say about having a special fund specifically for the bike park. And that I'd have to defer to Jill or Jenny on the process to create a special fund.
I know recommendations were made by the ad hoc. Is there, right now with our current situation, are you recommending we hold off until the next budget to apply the
There are
recommendations?
some things
or-
that we've been incorporating in through this process, and there are some things that are going to have to go forward as part of the next. And that was part of the difficulty of, so to be blunt,
Yes, thank you.
right? It was really hard to get something 10 minutes and not have a chance to review it and have a structured opportunity to kind of manage some of your expectations around how we were going to be able to incorporate that. So that after the fact, we're trying to wrestle with, we still have this massive deficit. So we really just took that deep dive into how do we close the gap. That didn't mean that we were ignoring any of the other stuff, but we literally didn't finish closing that gap until 3 o'clock on Friday. And so my hope was that I was going to have a presentation as well as a packet that I was going to be able to work on all weekend, but this thing called a storm came up.
Wow.
And so I didn't get any writing and done at all. And when John came into my office this afternoon, I was building this. So it's been a time factor to get that done, quite frankly. So none of that has gotten lost. It's all very important. And it's a matter of we just need to be able to tease it out and get it put into the right buckets, if you will.
Makes sense.
Any other
But we
questions?
were desperately trying to meet some of the objectives that were identified by the, close that gap of 170,000 in the general fund. And we got you pretty close to there.
It was a big ask.
Any other? Scott, do you have more questions?
Again, on some of the recommended motions that ad hoc presented to the council to consider, they could take them or leave them, but, instead it was lumped together as unclear direction to staff and for you to decipher with your crystal ball. I do see that there's been a significant change in the amount allotted for legal, and I think that we would be wise to increase that. There are a lot of things that are in flux, and I think realistically that more could be expected in that. So, you have, go ahead, please.
Well, I was going to say, so what we did is we took a much closer look within that GL and compared it with how much was being allocated in the budget and then how much was actually being expended. And then we really went for being able to reasonably project. You're going to avoid having legal costs associated with the housing element compliance, number one. Number two, a good portion of legal costs that have been incurred as a result of the recall election, those have been spent. And we're not going to see that continue moving forward unless something else is going on that I'm not aware of. So we've got a pretty good handle on what those expenditures were. I'm trying to come up with an example of one, but we saw one was at 25,000, and we realized we've only spent 1,700 out of that GL. Why don't we drop it down to 5? And so that's where we started making those kind of judgment calls in order to reduce that cost. in the end, you're looking at legal costs that are being broken out to several different locations, including the legal that's been associated with the Danco, legal that's been associated with the recall, legal that's been associated with the housing element, as well as the legal for your general counsel for the city. But, all of that has been covered underneath. We saw the same thing happen with that first quarterly report that you have, and those numbers are reflected in there as well. So we went through each one of those GLs to see whether or not there was some ground truthing around that. I mean, we're happy to bump it up, but it's,
So hypothetically, next year when I run a recall campaign against Michelle, could we then allocate the legal funds at that time?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
not preventing us from
No, not at
spending
all.
money
You
on
can-
those things.
Yeah,
It just-
when you see that there are either unexpected expenditures, you can either remedy that through a mid-year budget, or if you've got a project that is not funded, then you identify where the funding is going to come from or where you're going to be pulling the money out of in order to fund that certain activity. That is what normal, governmental budgeting is going to look like, right? So it doesn't mean that you don't have it. It means you're just going to have to identify what pot you're going to pull it out of and then allocate it back into in order to build up that particular line item.
Do you have more? Go
If
ahead.
you've got a goal that you want to see pop in there, this is the perfect opportunity to tell us that, because we really, it's like I said, we haven't had a conversation around the specifics in terms of the numbers.
Then, without going too far into closed session stuff, I think that we still have issues to address with some of our properties.
Correct.
And to no longer, that we, we put ourselves in the position to be actually take some action.
So to that end, it's actually very similar to the grants, which is you don't actually have anything that says you're spending this money right yet. So at the point that you're looking at entering into some sort of a project, then you say we're going to do X, Y, Z. Where are we going to pull the money from? And then you identify and you allocate it for that specific purpose. And you do that when you are making the approval of whether it's a contract or an agreement or like a construction type thing. So they're all handled the same way. You identify where the money is going to get pulled from, how it's going to be funded, and then you have the allocation into that GL that's made available.
Well, I guess the last comment that I have is where we are with the budget. And I do see park facilities as separate than recreation. It's unfortunate that on the revenue side, they typically got lumped together, but then on the expenditure side, they were typically separated. But on that, we'd seen that we typically were about $235,000 a year. And it was through the expenditure of the per capita, the state per capita and the American Rescue Plan that bumped it up by several $100,000. That carried over because that had been expensed. Then, hey, we spent, $400,000 this year. That went into the budget for the next year. And that's what we're seeing right now, but that's not a reflection of really where we had been prior. My concern in this is as we have spent more in those departments, we lose more. And it isn't linear, it's exponential in those losses. So, if we have baked in that we're taking 18% of our budget, $180,000, and we know that that's not coming back, that's that portion of expenditures that isn't coming back. I love all that work that you guys is doing, getting down into that granular detail, absolutely is part of it, and that's going to help plug those holes. But when we're still starting at that point, which I think is, in a sense, it wasn't a realistic, it was carryover when it shouldn't have been. So I guess my question to you is, how do we begin to bring that back down to reality, also realizing that we're 6 months into our spending right now? So how do we how do we get that back? to normal.
Well, you're not going to get back the last 6 months, but I think that your staff certainly recognizes that there's been a real need to constrain the cost, and I think everybody has been very, very conscientious around that. I don't know what that looks like, honestly, moving forward. I haven't been here long enough to really understand like the full, cycle of the year and all that it entails. Are your guys mowing twice a week? Could they be mowing every 10 days? I mean, that's a cost, and it sounds like it could be really insignificant on one hand, like really that's the conversation that we're having, whether we're doing it twice a week or every 10 days. But there's a cost that's associated. And when you look at some of these things, you've also got the costs that are associated with some activities over in the Powers Creek district. Well, those funds are running in negative balance. And a lot of it is because of public works activities. So it really does need to have that evaluation and to do the equivalent deep dive of public works as has been happening with the recreations department.
But how do we address that difference between where we had been about $240,000, $250,000 a year combined expenditures for parks, park facilities, and for recreation, and because of 1 year where we had that amount of money, now it's still at that level. And being at that level also means that 18% of that general fund isn't coming back.
It's going to require a standalone sort of analysis as moving forward, and setting those goals and learning how to live within those balance or in the budget means. So that's part of what. Sorry, Jenny. That's part of what Jenny's going to have to be really looking at. I don't think that any of this is lost in the conversations currently with staff or even with as Jenny is coming in. These are big conversations, and like the recommendations that we're making for either reducing or discontinuing, there may be some similar conversations within Public Works and what that looks like. I don't have like explicit examples to give you right now because I really don't quite have that. Do
I can
you?
give you one that's related because of my involvement with Little League. Oh.
Yeah. Don't worry. You'll get used to it. We all just sort of point and say, you got to speak on camera.
I mean, I can give you one example now, just because of my involvement with Little League. It used to be at Little League that part of the agreement was that we did all the mowing of the field. And as things have changed over the years and different people have been involved in Little League, that slowly changed. And eventually Glenn said, okay, well, he would take care of it. So now we don't do it at all. And so it's just those little changes that all add up at every facility as to what the agreements say the responsibility of the person that's using the facility does versus what the city takes on.
Thank you.
And you remind me, thank you. I needed to go pull some old invoices. Well, they weren't really that old. They're just sort of these outstanding invoices that are waiting for reconciliation. And some of it was for costs that were associated with the arena. And the bill went to the Saddle Club. But this is like 2023. I don't know that it actually got paid because it's still sitting over there in that pile. So as you're saying that there's been kind of a little bit of mission drift, if you will, in terms of some of the relationships with some of the nonprofits, I think that there's been a little bit of that too, where the city has just, oh, well, this is a really good and important thing. We'll just go ahead and carry that. Oh, if you're a little short, it's okay. We'll go ahead and carry that. So the whole animal over here really needs to be looked at in its entirety in terms of how and where the relationships exist and how you kind of put people back in their little boxes. So.
Can I say, we didn't get here overnight with the reality of our budget. It's taken a lot of years of mission drift to be where we are right now. But the format Jill has created, I believe, will really increase the budget literacy, at least within the office, and the level that I can work with my colleagues to understand the decisions they're making and the impact it's going to have on our budget. So I think the foundation we're all building together right now is going to be really proprietary and moving forward in a positive way for future years.
Yeah.
Any
Well
other-
said. Very well said. Yeah.
You've been
Any-
spending time with Jill.
Since December
good.
1st, her and I probably spent 30 to 40 hours on just this budget alone.
And we do appreciate all
Thank
Yeah,
you.
both of you.
Thank you all for all your hard work.
I have a couple of,
Make one comment before you do, please. I just want to acknowledge again, I know that my questions sometimes might feel pointed or I persist. I definitely persist. I will make it clear that I really, really appreciate all of the effort that you've put into this, all of the thinking, the time, looking pretty much in every nook and cranny. It's really reflected in those numbers. So thank you for that. Yeah.
And it needs continued work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like every time we look at it, it's like, oh, we could try this. Yes, ma'am.
green waste is near and dear to my heart. And I think we probably could get by with 3 green waste days a year, but I think the timing really needs some tune-up. And so I find that a lot of the dates really don't work. I'm a gardener, and the dates are off.
Would
So
you
I'd like
pay?
to- What's that?
Would you pay?
I'd pay something. I don't want to pay by the pound, because I can go do that over at, you know, at Morris Logging. But yeah, I'd be happy to, you know, $20 a load, $50 a load, I don't know.
So that runs into a little bit of an issue as far as you would have to establish rates, figure out your volumetric pricing and making sure that everybody's getting the same thing. You're probably better off making it no charge drop off or just taking it directly over somebody's scale. Otherwise, it gets a little weird where you
Can you put a
have-
donation jar out there?
Yeah, I know. It's, you know, when you're talking about collecting fees for things,
Yeah,
you want to make it defensible.
yeah.
Sorry. I like the idea, but you want to make it defensible.
On Michelle's idea, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into this, I'd rather keep moving on, but if you had the 2 free days and you had a donation jar on the free days, if there was enough in the donation jar,
Making
could you
money
then
now.
get the third? There we go.
Suggested donation.
All right, just thinking outside the box.
I like it, I like it.
All
I
right,
got something else.
are we, any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fund 33, you have your expenditure at 170, 159. I believe it's 190.
I'm sorry, I have to look at it, and I'm gonna have to put my glasses on so I can see now. Okay, which one are you looking at? You're
Fund-
looking at the
Fund 30
summary sheet?
Fund 33,
Fund 33. Yes, indeed, there is some funds that are left over that roll over, and it's in a fund.
but your expense shows 170 as the cost.
So your revenue is 185,000. Your expense is 170.
Under law enforcement,
Your net is 15,000. This is apparently, that 170 is apparently what we've been invoiced by the contract. How much
it
did you
should
think
be
it was?
190.
I will double check, but I think what we had was 170, but I'll double check on that, but thank you. Okay, I get what you're saying now.
That's a number in the wrong direction, sorry.
No, that's okay. I get what,
Unless they lowered the price, which I don't know that they would have because the negotiated price
right.
was supposed to carry through. Maybe that's,
So and you're correct, I recall seeing 190 in the news stories that were done. And so when I saw the 170, I thought, I must have just read the 190 wrong. I'll go back
you
into
know
the
what,
contract and look at
and
it.
I might be wrong too, because maybe that was supposed to be 2 years.
Could that have
But
also
this
included
is
the animal?
year number 3.
Okay.
It doesn't include animal control at all.
Yeah.
But this is year number 3, so maybe it did come down.
It did, totally.
It did?
We'll find out.
We're hoping. Tell me.
Yep.
Any
Okay.
further questions? Seeing none, do we want to bring it back to council for an extension?
Yeah. I would like to propose, I would like to make a motion to adopt, is this right? Resolution number 1248 of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake, California, adopting the operating capital budgeting. Oops, wait. Sorry, wait, hold on. I got this. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake, California, authorizing a temporary extension of appropriations for fiscal year 25-26 pending adoption of the annual budget.
Motion by Louis Lissow. Do we have a second? Napier.
that
Napier is
Kat?
the second.
No, Terry said.
Oh,
Terry, she whispered it.
Yeah.
Terry,
I did.
Speak
Second.
up, sister.
Bayless. Second by Bayless. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
thank you, and again, my apologies that we didn't get to do like this big hoo-hoo, we've got like,
It's incredible. what
everything
you
is
guys
done.
Thank you for your
I'll
good work.
I'll be
Yeah,
that was
noticing
great.
this in your employee profile.
That's right.
Okay,
All right.
next item is pretty
Well,
straightforward.
Conduct second reading of ordinance number 549.
All right.
So, as we had discussed, ordinance 549 had been introduced by first reading at the city council meeting on June 10th, and we were needing to, we ended up having to reinitiate because of some non-conformance issues. So we did do a first reading earlier in December. This represents the second reading. And so we are asking that the city open for the public hearing, receive public testimony on the adoption of ordinance 549, which amends the city's municipal code. And this does pertain to the cross-connection policy handbook. There have been no proposed changes to date, and the only other thing that we just really kind of want to, inform council members of is that, the program can be pretty robust in terms of the commitment by staff, and I think it's going to be something that's going to need to be looked at in terms of the surveys and the inspections and the repairs that are necessary. So that's something that needs to be worked on a little bit longer. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Can you go into any more detail on that part about employees having to spend a lot of time on it? Or
I'm
was-
sorry?
You said that you had like questions about how much time it was going to take.
I don't have questions about it. I want to just let you know that if you have a well or you have a business, any sort of activity that could somehow result in a change of water pressure where you're taking water that is on, like let's say on somebody else's meter side, and it has the possibility of entering into the water distribution system, then the city has a responsibility and an obligation to make sure that that property owner has a double check valve or an RP or something like this in order to prevent that cross-contamination from occurring. That comes at a cost of staff maintaining a list of all of the double check devices or RP devices or some of the larger ones that may be. And then on an annual basis, they need to either go through and conduct an inspection, or if they need to be repairs, and you have to follow up to make sure that the property owner has made the repairs. So there are costs that are associated with the time to make sure that the residents in the city are in compliance with the program.
Is there a charge for the people who have these double valves?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
And
believe
so
you
I'm
have
guessing-
one right now.
Okay.
I am so sorry.
I can answer
I'm
that.
sorry.
I think it's $110
I'm right
a
in the
year.
middle
for
of
the
this. What's up?
inspections.
Yeah. well, But I think that
Oh,
that would be
okay, I'll take a
another
look.
one of those considerations for staff time to do record keeping and invoicing and ensuring that money is coming back for those inspections.
Okay. My husband is letting us know. It's 10:15. They're beginning to pick up heavier rain and noticeable wind. And in other words, he's telling me I need to hit the road.
Let's move this along quickly then.
Is there anything that we can defer until later?
I think we can actually probably get through these next two
Yeah.
items because they're really cleanup.
Yeah.
Is what they are. They were introduced, this one needs to be conformed, and then I'll touch bases on the next one, so.
Any bigger questions? We can save them.
We need to open up a public hearing for it.
I'm going to go ahead and open up a public hearing for this item. Does the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for consideration of the second reading.
Closing the public hearing.
So this will be moved to adopt ordinance 549, amending chapter 13.12 of the City of Blue Lakes Municipal Code.
So moved.
And we will waive the reading. Motion?
Motion by Louis Lusso,
Second.
second by Napier.
And for this one, I do need to have a roll call vote. Napier?
Yes.
Lusso, Louis Lusso?
Yes.
Mayor Sawatsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Scafani?
Yes.
And Councilmember Bayless?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
All right, moving on to item number 13, conduct second reading of ordinance number 545. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Blue Lake adopting the state California fire hazard severity zone map. City staff, would you like to fill us in on this?
Sorry, I'm still trying to get to this. This was also an action that is needed in order to restate ordinance 545 of the fire severity maps. You'll recall that you heard this item earlier this year, and we had received notification from E-Code, and that's the firm that basically does the codification of all of your muni codes. That this was there were two issues. One is that we needed to get the correct ordinance titling numbering, so striking that hyphen 2025, and we needed to incorporate the date of the second reading and approval that was held in May 27th of 2025 into the document. So we're simply asking you to restate the ordinance and then go ahead and make that, I'm trying to find where I put it, there's too many attachments at the back end, so that we would go ahead and have that roll call that would be then adopted on the 23rd of December 2023.
We need to open up for public hearing though, correct?
You can go ahead and open it up.
I'd like to go ahead and open this up for public hearing. Does anyone wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, let's bring it back to council for potential adoption.
I would like to move that we amend and restate ordinance 545-2025, fire severity maps for conformance.
This is
Motion.
actually, we want you
That's
to conduct the second reading of ordinance 545. There is no more 2025. That's been a,
So the corrected name of the
yeah, the
ordinance
corrected
is
name,
545.
545.
And second reading in name only.
So is that your, yes, motion made by Scafani?
I did it wrong though.
I think
Do I need to say it over?
Oh, we got it.
Okay.
we have a second.
Second.
Seconded by Napier.
Councilmember Napier?
All
Aye.
those in favor say aye, or wait, no,
Aye.
we use roll.
Roll call. Councilmember Louis Lusso,
Aye.
Councilmember Sawatsky,
Aye.
Councilmember Stefani,
Aye.
Councilmember Bayless.
Aye.
All
Okay.
righty. Moving on to council, can we go ahead and bypass council correspondence, or we already received that this evening?
We did.
Received it.
Many
Yeah.
nice letters.
You've, yeah, all the letters that we have received are included in your packet. If they were not included in your packet, they were placed on the dais prior to the meeting.
Yep.
And if it's okay with everyone, let's go ahead and pass reports of council and staff. Unless, Jill, do you have anything you'd like to report?
Just a real quick, in addition to doing budget, we have been spending a lot of time preparing various state transportation audits and reports. Some of them are pretty, yeah, they can be pretty time consumptive.
Come on.
Yeah, So at any rate, and then today, we got a number of claim submittals for some TDA funds from the RSTIP funds, as well as the bike and pedestrian funds, some Cal Recycle funds that will be coming to us both in terms of the city, county. So we're trying to initiate all of these different claims and non-competitive grant sources so that we can get those funds into the city. I have about 53 hours left for the city.
Before we,
Burning up.
before we leave reports, can we get an ad hoc report about the city clerk process?
Sure.
We're going to be
We've-
scheduling some interviews.
Yeah. We've been working on we're working on the process, like interviewing schedules and looking at candidates and
Questions.
Yeah.
we're doing all of that right now.
So we still
And
have
so-
viable candidates?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I think it's important to acknowledge public comment from earlier, the frustration there. We
Sure.
actually share the frustration, all of us here collectively,
Yeah.
both in not having it come forward. We know that this has been a burden on staff, not just Jill, but all staff. And it's a burden on the public. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
So in between the other fires and budget, it isn't lost. It's just, it's moving in molasses, and I apologize.
But I think it's moving in a thoughtful, methodical way that's following a process to ensure sustainability.
And a legal process.
So how does that sound?
Thank you.
That's okay.
All right.
Somewhere
Any
in
other
here, I
council
just managed to
correspondence or
lose
commission
my-
updates?
I have nothing.
I do have something about commissions, and that is that many of our commissioners' terms are expiring at the end of next month, and they generally don't look at bulletin boards or know when this is happening, so I think it'd be really great if we could send them all a letter.
So one of my tasks that I've been trying to get to is exactly that, and I have not had the time to even get there. You didn't tell her she was going to have to be doing potentially some acting city manager or city clerk stuff too. It is between dealing with the public works, city manager, and acting clerk, it comes at a cost of plates of crashing. So having to prioritize, and I know that there's folks who have left messages for me, and I just tell them I'm trying to get to you the best I can, and there's just not enough hours in the day at the moment.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Anything you can
And nobody
delegate?
gets more frustrated than myself.
Any delegating possibilities?
You go ahead.
Not really, not really.
For purposes.
Because everybody's tasked.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got other people who are backfilling some of the city clerk duties that I'm not doing. So it's pretty broad. It's a full-time position by itself.
It is. We do have we still have posted on our website the current commissions and the dates that they expired. So we have the commission, the commissioners that are there, and the date that their appointment expires. So I'd like to officially notify the public that that is available on the website so that we can kind of meet the ordinance that says that we need to notify the public of these expiring seats. And then adding to that, when those seats expire, it isn't an automatic renewal. They're asked to please reapply, and then they're considered with other candidates. So if you have interest in the commission, just to repeat, we're notifying that there are seats that will be expiring on January 30th of 2026, and refer to the website for which commissions and which seats specifically.
So we'll need to make sure, I mean, I know you've been really good about tracking the actual ordinance itself pertaining to this. And so I'll at least I've got language together. I haven't had a chance to actually put the email out. But it'll be really good. And we do have one person who has applied for the Park and Recreations Commission, but I haven't seen anything else yet, so.
I do believe the website is up to date for commissioners that are current. But the Mattiac notice that's hanging in the post office is not.
Oh,
So that should come down, and you should be able to print a Mattiac notice off of the website. It won't look the same as the one that you currently use, but you should be able to print it.
would it be possible to put something on Facebook, say, hey, if you're interested in Blue Lake, you should maybe look into some
Yeah,
commissions.
it'd be good to have, well, a Mattiac notice to post with that maybe.
It sounds like maybe we'll have a delay slightly in this process, but
Yeah.
then it'll get taken care of in the near future.
All right.
Does that work?
That's all I have. Other ideas?
So we have one item remaining. That being said, wanting to get a quick check-in here.
May I, a 30-second blast on the two commissions that I sit on. Are we doing 15B?
I'm sorry,
Commission
for
updates.
Commissioner, sure.
I
I thought we were,
Can't quite hear both of you.
she was asking about doing 15B.
Yeah. I only want,
Sure, go ahead.
thank you, I apologize.
B.
Commission
Oh,
updates.
gotcha. Okay.
So the Economic Development Commissioners are asking for direction from the council on what we would like for them to be working on. So just
Yeah.
keep that in mind, and then we can hopefully present them something.
So
in
relative
January.
to that,
Okay.
Money-making ideas.
Tony and I have had a number of conversations around it. Would be really great to get a little bit of an opportunity, maybe to have a joint discussion between council and all of your commissions, and have that moment to, why are we here?
Yeah.
Right? Get a little grounding as far as what the purpose of the commission is, kind of the role and the involvement and the resources that are being dedicated or not being dedicated. So it'd be really great to have something like that move forward. They really are needing to have more direction from council and more engagement. And, you know, again, I'm sorry, there was a finite ability of my being available for them, and some of them have been remarkable in terms of being able to sort of pick up and go forth on their own. But it is absolutely something that needs to be discussed in a broader context for the community.
So are you suggesting one giant meeting with all the commissions?
You could theoretically
and council?
do just a big joint sort of discussion, and you could have, you can do your Brown Act, you know, sort of training and everything else. You could theoretically pull you guys together. Could be kind of a circus, and maybe, but who knows?
That's how we roll.
We'd be fighting for seats up here.
Yeah. The other, I need to bring this forward, I said I would, for the Parks and Rec Commission, and that is they're clamoring, very eager and all but demanding information on the bike park, on where is it in the process and when can we get started.
Right.
And so it's a bit of a challenge that we kind of have to reset expectations there on what that process looks like and ensure that they kind of hear that message that, you know, one step at a time. But I wanted to acknowledge that they're very eager for information. That's it.
Tell them to call me.
Okay. There you go.
So I think we'll need to go into closed session. In order to do that, we'll march back over into that other room. And it was a pleasure, Jenny. I look forward to working with you shortly, and don't hesitate to reach out between now and then. I'm sorry? 53 hours?
No, 52
52,
hours
51.
and 40 minutes.
Yeah, we do need to take public comment for closed session and
Get a motion.
get a
Right,
motion.
yeah, right.
And can you
Like-
record the
Where did our,
Yes.
where do we go?
I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for public comment on our closed session item, conference with real property negotiations for APN 312-131-037-000. Does anyone wish to comment on this closed session item?
Seeing none?
Julie Christie, no?
Okay.
Nobody? No.
We'll go ahead and adjourn over there, and then we'll come out and
good.
announce how
Okay.
we're
Do we
done.
have a
Adjourn?
motion?
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to
Into
closed
closed
session.
Louis Lusso made the motion,
Second.
seconded by Scafani.
Eager to get
All
out
those
of
in
here.
favor? Say aye.
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 Aye.